So today we're going to start on chapter 8, Nitya Dharma and Vaishnava behavior. So this is a very pertinent chapter because all the way through up till now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has been dropping so many examples of Vaishnava behavior, because it's one thing to hear the philosophy and then to practicalize it in our daily lives. So without a sharp understanding of what is Vaishnava etiquette, how do Vaishnavas behave with each other, what is a Kanishta Vaishnava, what is a Madhyam Vaishnava, what is an Uttam Vaishnava, and how to understand who is who. Not that we're judgmental, but we should understand this. In our dealings and relationship, if someone is Kanishta, then we're going to be very encouraging for them, compassionate. And if someone is a Madhyam, and we are also Madhyam, my Gurudev used to say, quickly come to the platform of Madhyam. Madhyam just means we understand who is Krishna, that he's not Parthasarathi on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that he's either Dwarkadish, or he's Brajendra Nandan in Vrindavan, or he's Mathuresh Krishna. Understanding all these topics about Krishna will bring us to the Madhyam level. And then from the Madhyam level, we can progress from Madhyam Kanishta, Madhyam Madhyam, and Madhyam Uttam, 3 stages within each category, and then 3 stages of Uttam, Kanishta Uttam, Madhyam Uttam, and Uttam Uttam. So this is going to be explained in this chapter 8. So Nityadam and Vaishnava behavior. In a forest bordering the southeastern bank of the sacred pond known as Gaur Hrida, there were some Vaishnavas living in a secluded grove. Gaur Hrida, by the way, is just across the road. I was searching for it for quite a while previously, and I was in our local grocery store one day, and I met this like a gentleman, and I just asked him, "Where are you from?" And he said, "Oh, Gaur Hrida." I said, "Wow, where's that?" He said, "Oh, just around the corner." And it is. From here, it's about 2 kilometers. You can cycle there, less than 2 kilometers. It's a very nice walk. And it's just, you wouldn't spot it because it's just like a valley kind of thing. There's no sign there or anything. But that's actually where it is. That location is called Gorkhida. So it's there. This is what the devotees today is their duty, is to uncover all of the holy sites of Navadvip because it's very covered. Vrindavan, everything is open and exposed. But here it's becoming opened. So we in our travels around should be hunting all the different places to expose them and to bring them to light for other Vaishnavas, like Radhakund, for example. If you go to Radhakund here on the way to Champahati, the people of Radhakund don't even know their place is called Radhakund. It's called Kobla, something like that. Completely different name. They have no idea. Even that Ghat wasn't put in there until just a few years ago. And the 2 kunds are so huge and beautiful. So the devotees have some direct savor there to uncover those places. One afternoon, the Vaishnavas of that place invited the Vaishnavas of Godrum, because it's very close, it's about 2 kilometers, in Swananda Sugata Kunj, and here Surabhi Kunj, this is the Godrum Vaishnavas, to join them for afternoon prasad. After honoring prasad, the Vaishnavas sat together in the grove. At that time, Lahari Mahashai sang a bhajan that awakened ecstatic love of Braj in everyone's heart. Gora, I won't sing it. Kata lila korile aikane, advaitadi bhakta sange, nichale evanes range, kalia damana sankirtan, ye hrida hoite prabhu, nistarele nakra prabhu, Krishna yena kalia damana. Oh, think of the many pastimes Gora performed here. He danced and sported in this forest grove in the company of Advaita and other Vaishnavas, just as Sri Krishna tamed Kaliyanaga. And our Prabhu delivered a crocodile from this pond with his Sankirtan, which became known as Kaliya Daman Sankirtan. So there was a crocodile then, and Mahaprabhu, he touched that crocodile with his foot. We have um, representation of it on the wall down here in Surabhikunj. And that crocodile turned into a beautiful heavenly demigod and explained that he'd been cursed, etc. And then he went back to Swagaloka. So Mahaprabhu, he performed that incredible pastime just right here. When we're aware of the very presence of Mahaprabhu in these pastime places, then it just makes it so much more alive. And it's like we're sitting on the very edge of the razor, so to speak, bringing us into the kingdom of Mahaprabhu. Everything becomes very close, like you're visiting many of the holy places in Sringapali and um, uh, Shiva, Harihara Ketra, all these different places. This is very, very healthy and good for our bhajan. When the bhajan was over, the Vaishnavas began to discuss the unity of Gaur Leela and Krishna Leela. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritiya Hladini Shakti Asmat Ekat Manav. Radha and Krishna have become one as Mahaprabhu. So they're discussing the unity of Mahaprabhu. That means Radhika within the form as her bhav and complexion in the form of Sachinandan. While they were doing so, a few Vaishnavas from Baragachi arrived and offered Dandavat pranams, first to Gaurachrida and then to the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas in the grove offered suitable respects to the newcomers and seated them. In that splendid kunj was an ancient banyan tree, around whose base the Vaishnavas had constructed a circular mortared terrace. Everyone honored the tree as Nitai Vat, Nityananda Prabhu's banyan tree, for he would enjoy sitting beneath it. The Vaishnavas now sat beneath this Nitai Vat and began discussing spiritual matters. So all this is taking place about almost 400 years ago. So Mahaprabhu advented more than 500 years ago. So it's just after the departure of Mahaprabhu. So this is the time sequence where we are. A young, inquisitive Vaishnava in the group from Baragachi said very humbly, I would like to ask a question, and I will be most satisfied if one of you will please answer it. Haridas Babaji Mahashai, a resident of that secluded kunj, was a wise and deeply learned scholar. He was almost 100 years old. He had personally seen Nityananda Prabhu sitting beneath that banyan tree many years before, and his heart's desire was to depart from this world at this very spot. When he heard the youth's words, he said, My son, while Paramahamsa Babaji's entourage is sitting here, you need have no anxiety about receiving a reply to your question. The young Vaishnava from Baragachi then inquired very humbly, I understand that Vaishnava Dharma is eternal religion, and would like to know in detail how one who has taken shelter of Vaishnava Dharma should behave with others. Very beautiful. So we have our eternal spirit soul internally to unfold through our practice, but then how are we going to relate with other Vaishnavas around us? Because that's a very internal, private, in a sense, consideration of your internal self-realized soul, your swarup. That's something that we consider while we're in our bhajan stage, that antardash it's called. But how to relate outside of that with other Vaishnavas is very important. Having heard the newcomer's question, Haridas Babaji Mahashai glanced over to Sri Vaishnavadas Babaji and said, Vaishnavadas, there is no scholar in Bengal at the present time who is equal to you, and you are also a superlative Vaishnava. You had the association of Sri Prakashananda Saraswati Goswami, and you have received instructions from Paramahamsa Babaji. You are a very fortunate recipient of Sriman Mahaprabhu's mercy, and you are therefore most fit to answer this question. Vaishnavadas Babaji Mahashai said humbly, O great soul, you have seen Sriman Nityananda Prabhu, who is an avatar of Baladev himself, and your instructions have enabled countless people to enter the spiritual path. I would deem it a great mercy if you will instruct us today. Already Bhaktivinoda Thakur is demonstrating the behavior between Vaishnavas just in these very few, all these little details. They're all aspects of Vaishnava behavior. All the other Vaishnavas agreed with Vaishnava Das Babaji. Seeing no other recourse, Babaji Mahashai finally relented. He offered Dandavat Pranams to Sri Nityananda Prabhu at the foot of the banyan tree and began to speak. Yes, without our Mangalacharyan or our offering, that means we're not connecting with the Guru Vargya. Without that Mangalacharyan, then our words don't have any real authority or authenticity if we're not submissively connecting with these previous acharyas to begin. So always the Mangalacharyan is there. Babaji, I offer pranam to all the jivas of this world, considering them to be servants of Krishna. This means that he's practically or is on the Uttam platform. That's what it means. Everyone is a servant of Sri Krishna, although some accept this and some do not. That's a beautiful expression. I've used it many, many times. Everyone is a devotee of Krishna. Some know it and some don't, that's all. But all are devotees of Krishna. I even explained the other day how even if you go into the Brahman, still your effulgence is going to enhance Krishna's Brahmajyoti. Even in that condition, you're going to be serving Krishna. So all jivas are by nature servant of Krishna. Conclusively, they form one group. Another group consists of those who do not accept their natural identity as servants of Sri Krishna. Consequently, there are two kinds of people in this world: Krishna Bahirmukh, those who are diverted from Krishna, and Krishna Unmukh, those who are attentive to Krishna. Very simple. Most people in this world are diverted from Krishna and do not accept Dharma. This is why they've come to this world. They've come because they distinctly wanted to be separate from Krishna. There is nothing much to say about the first group. They have no sense of what is to be done and what is not to be done, and their entire existence is based upon selfish happiness. People who accept some moral principles have a sense of duty. For them, the great Vaishnava, Manu, has written, Driti Shama Dharma Shreyam Socham Indriya Nigraha Dir Vidya Satyam Akrodo Dashakam Dharma Lakshanam. This is from the Manu Samhita. We mentioned this Manu Samhita previously in the last chapter also because so many instructions about grihastas. In the Manu Samhita in particular, that we have some English versions and you can see them, and it's very much concerned with the grihasta dharma. Translation: there are 10 characteristics of religious life. Driti, determination with patience. Shama, forgiveness, which means not retaliating when wronged by others. Dham, control of the mind, which means equanimity even in the face of unsettling circumstances. Ashteya, abstinence from theft. Socham, cleanliness. Indriya Nigraha, restraining the senses from their sense objects. D, intelligence, which means knowledge of the Shastras. Vidya, wisdom, which means realization of the soul. Satya, truthfulness, and akroda, absence of anger, as demonstrated by even-temperedness amidst irritating circumstances. These 10 could be pulled out and enumerated. All these little things that we're sending on the WhatsApp, different verses and stuff, if you have the opportunity to print them out and just keep them in a folder, it's very, very helpful just to go back through them and see the compilation of all these different verses and sayings like this from Jivadharma. It's very helpful. 6 of these characteristics: determination, control of the mind, cleanliness, restraint of the senses, knowledge of the Shastras, and wisdom, are duties to one's own self. The remaining 4, forgiveness, abstinence from stealing, truthfulness, and absence of anger are duty to others. These 10 religious duties have been prescribed for people in general, but none of them clearly indicate Hari Bhajan. It's like we're talking about Sharanagati also in the Gita. Sharanagati is the threshold of bhakti. Sharanagati, in the condition of Sharanagati, there's no sambandha with Krishna. You're surrendering to him, but you haven't created a relationship. There's no mamata. There's no sense of Krishna is mine. We haven't come to that place yet. It's just my body is submitting to Krishna's potency, but I haven't actually developed my relationship with him. Therefore, it's just the threshold of bhakti. So similarly here, it's saying a similar thing. These 10 religious duties have been prescribed for people in general, but none of them clearly indicate Hari Bhajan. Furthermore, one will not necessarily attain complete success in life simply by carrying out these duties faithfully. So we often see traditionally in religious groups, they try to be very chaste, they try to be very well behaved, all these things, but they're not actually connecting with the Supreme, are they? You know, in monasteries and so on, they take different vows, right, of humility, etc., but they don't have sufficient fund of knowledge to bring them to the personal form of Krishna. This is not propagated. Huh? Shantaras, yes. Neutral. It's neutrality. Like the soul itself has a relationship with the Jivatma as a witness, and it's neutral in the sense that it doesn't control in any way the Jivatma. The Jivatma has his own freedom, his own sovereignty, that the Supersoul has given to him like that. But this Shantaras is not to be pursued and followed. It's this neutral zone is not a healthy place to be, actually. Nothing's going on there. This is confirmed in the Vishnu Dharmatara Purana. Jivitam Vishnu Bhaktasya Varam Pancha Dinani Cha Natu Kalpa Sahasrani Bhakti Hinasya Keshave. Quoted from Hari Bhakti Vilas 10.317. It is most auspicious to live in this world even for 5 days as a bhakta of Sri Vishnu, whereas it is not at all auspicious to live in this world for thousands of kalpas without bhakti for Sri Keshava. Beautiful, beautiful verse. A person bereft of Krishna bhakti is not fit to be called a human being. Therefore, Shastra counts such people among the two-legged animals. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.19 states, Svavid varohostra karai samstuta purusha pashu na yat karna patopetao jatu nam gada graraj. Only men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those who never hear the holy name of Krishna, the elder brother of Gada. If a person never allows Sri Krishna Nam to enter his ears, he is like an animal. In fact, he is more degraded than hogs that eat stool and other rejected substances, camels that wander in the desert of samsara, eating cactus, and asses that carry heavy loads for others and are always harassed by the she-ass. Wow, that's a lot of examples. Camels, hogs, what is it? She-ass. However, the question raised today was not about what such unfortunate people should or should not do. It was only about how those who have taken shelter of the path of bhakti should behave with others. In other words, he's laying a foundation of sambandha initially. Those who have adopted the path of bhakti may be divided into 3 categories. By the way, I'll explain afterwards about Krishna being the elder brother of Gada, because Gada is not a name for Baladev in this case, but I'll give you the explanation afterwards. um, Where are we? Those who have adopted the path of bhakti may be divided into three categories: Kanishta, neophyte; Madhyam, intermediate; and Uttam, topmost. Kanishtas are those who have embarked upon the path of bhakti but are not yet true bhaktas. Their symptoms are described as follows: Acharyam eva haraye pujam ya shradayayate na tad bhakteshu chaneyashu sa bhakta prakrita smrita. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.47. One who faithfully worships the deity form of Sri Hari but does not render service to his bhaktas or other living entities is a prakrita bhakta, a materialistic follower. Thus it is established that Shraddha is the bij, or seed of bhakti. One's bhakti is only effective when he worships Bhagavan with Shraddha, and it is still not Shuddha bhakti unless he worships the bhaktas as well, because that makes it personal. That means I'm acknowledging the servants of Lord Krishna. Bhakti does not develop thoroughly as long as he fails to do so. This type of bhakta has barely entered the doorway of the practice of bhakti. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.84.13, Yasyatma buddhi kunepe tri dhatuke, swadi kala radeshu boma rija dri, yat tirtha buddhi shalile na karichi, janeshu abhineshu sa eva gokaraha. One who considers this corpse-like body, comprised of the three elements, vata, pitta, and kapha, to be his real self, who regards his wife, children, and others as his very own, who considers mundane forms made of earth, stone, or wood to be worshipable, and who regards mere water to be a place of pilgrimage, but who does not consider the Bhagavat Bhaktas to be more dear than his very self, to be his very own, to be worshipable, and to be places of pilgrimage. Such a person, though human, is no better than an ass among animals. In other words, if you come to a holy place and you just take bath without honoring the sadhus who live there, then you haven't recognized that holy place. That holy dham is reflected in the hearts of those pure sadhus who reside in those places, like in Radhakund or Shamakund, all the holy places of Vrindavan, Varshana, so many places, Govardhan. We should seek those sadhus who are carrying the truth of those places in their realized hearts. The purport of these two shlokas is that one cannot even approach the threshold of bhakti without worshipping Bhagavan in the form of the deity. If one rejects the deity form and resorts to logical debate alone to deduce the truth, his heart becomes dry and he cannot ascertain the true object of worship. In other words, the personal aspect. If you don't have the personal conception, then how can you expect to have a relationship with Krishna? Yet even when one accepts the deity, it is essential to serve him in transcendental consciousness, Shuddha Chinmoy Buddhi. In this world, the jivas are Chinmoy, Vastu, conscious entities, and among all the jivas, the bhaktas of Krishna are Shuddha Chinmoy, endowed with pure consciousness. Krishna and the bhaktas are both Shuddha Chinmoy Vastu, pure conscious entities, and in order to understand them, it is essential to have Sambandha Gyan, which is knowledge of the interrelationship between the material world, the jivas, and Krishna. This is exactly what we discussed at the very beginning of this class by Krishna's arrangement. We discussed exactly this topic about what is Sambandha Gyan and the Satchidananda manifestation of the jiva in the heart. If one is to worship the deity with Sambandha Gyan, then one must worship Krishna and serve the bhaktas at the same time. This type of adoration and respect for Chinmoy Tattva, the transcendental reality which is endowed with Shraddha, is known as Shastriya Shraddha, faith based on Shastra. We must have the Shastric injunctions to guide us. The ancient sages and rishis, they created the Shastric injunctions to support our journey to self-realization and to a transcendental conclusion. That's why they've created the various um, prohibitions and the various guidance of what we should do, how we should behave, etc. They've done it for our benefit. I know sometimes devotees, they become irritated even when they consider how many rules and regulations there are, but it's all for our own pure. Every single injunction of Shastra has a most sublime truth behind it. It's not just made up for some, you know, to put some weight on the devotee or something of that nature. It's all crafted very, very beautifully. Worship of the deity that lacks this unequivocal knowledge of the interrelationship between the different aspects of the transcendental reality is simply founded on lokik shraddha, customary or traditional regard. Lokik shraddha means worldly faith, not based on, there's no depth to it. Um, Such customary worship of the deity is not Shuddha Bhakti, although it is the first step in approaching the entrance to Bhakti. That is the conclusion of Shastra. Those who have reached this threshold of Bhakti have been described as follows. Gita Vishnu Dikshako Vishnu Puja Paro Nara Vaishnavo Bihito Bijnai Itaro Shmad Avaishnavaha. Hari Bhakti Vilas 155. Learned scholars have determined that a Vaishnava is one who is initiated into a Vishnu mantra in accordance with the regulations of Shastra and who is engaged in the worship of Sri Vishnu. All others are known as non-Vaishnavas. So that's a very nice, clear description of who is a Vaishnava, one who worships the Vishnu mantra in accordance with the regulations of Shastra. In this age where we live, there's so much. I know when we were younger, this idea of just doing your own thing was very prominent amongst the youth of that I was associating with. Just just do it how you like it, do it my way. It's still like that. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. But that place only leads to tragedy. It doesn't lead to any blissful conclusion. Whereas when we just give up that independent spirit of doing whatever we like in that regard, but try to follow carefully, becoming a disciple means you give your independence to Guru. That's actually what it means to become a disciple. It means you give your independence to Guru, your independence to wander here or wander there. This is what it really infers. How to give up my independence to Guru. Kanishta Vaishnavas or Prakrita Vaishnavas, or those who accept a family priest out of hereditary tradition, or who are prompted by Lokik Shraddha, worldly faith, to imitate others by taking initiation into a Vishnu mantra and worshipping the deity of Sri Vishnu. Such materialistic devotees are not Shuddha Bhaktas, rather a shadow-like semblance of bhakti called Chaya Bhakti-abhas. Chaya means shadow. We'll come to this in chapter 24, 25, when in relationship to Nam. Chaya Bhakti-abhas is prominent in them. But a shadow, if it's a shadow is connected to the object. The opposite of Chaya is Pratibimba. Pratibimba means a reflection. There's Chaya Namabhas and Pratibimba Namabhas. If it's Pratibimba, it means it's just a reflection. It's not actually connected to the object. But if it's Chaya, it means it's actually connected to the object, and sooner or later it will become purified. So this Chaya Bhakti Abhas can become purified. However, they do not have Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas, which is a reflective semblance of Bhakti. So this Pratibimba is the reflection, and that is not connected to the object. This Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas is offensive in nature and is devoid of Vaishnavism. The stage of Chaya Bhakti Abhas is the result of great fortune because it is the preliminary stage of bhakti, and people can gradually develop from it to Madhyam and Uttam Vaishnavas. You understand the distinction between the two? Pratibimba and Chaya. Pratibimba is being reflected. It's more or less like a Mayavad. It's like reflection. If you've got a tree beside a lake, and then you've got the shadow of the tree, the shadow is connected to the object, the tree, to Krishna. But if the tree is simply reflected in the lake, there's no real substantial connection with it. So it has it's like Mayavad. That's what Pratibimba means. And it's offensive. It's saying here clearly that Pratibimba concept, that reflective Mayavad conception. Yes, it's not connecting. But that's a different example, really. Yeah, that's another one. The tree is the better one. This Pratibimba Bhakti-abhas is offensive in nature and devoid of Vaishnavism. The stage of Chaya Bhakti-abhas is the result of great fortune because it is the preliminary stage of bhakti, and people can gradually develop from it to Madhyam and Uttam Vaishnavas. Still, those in the stage of bhakti of Chaya Bhakti-abhas cannot be called Shuddha Bhaktas. Such people worship the deity with lokik shraddha, worldly faith. They can only behave towards others according to the 10 types of religious duties that I've already described for people in general. This is from the Manu Samhita that he's referencing. By the way, all of these topics are very clearly delineated in Bhakti Tattva Vivek by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a very small, beautiful book about Shuddha Bhakti, and has 4 chapters describing the 4 lines of the verse Anya Bilasita Shunyam. That makes 1 chapter. And then each line represents another chapter. There's 4 chapters, and it explains clearly what is Shuddha Bhakti. And it's a small compilation. If you can get that book, we can post it on our WhatsApp thread, the digital copy. But this is really an excellent study to support what we're reading. They can only behave towards others according to the 10 types of religious duties that I've already described for people in general. The behavior that the Shastras prescribe for bhaktas does not apply to them, for they cannot even ascertain who is a true bhakta and who is not. The power to discriminate is a symptom of the Madhyam Vaishnava. That doesn't mean judging, it just means the power to discriminate. You should know who is a Kanishta, so you can bestow your mercy, and you should know who is a Madhyam, so you can befriend, and you have to know who is an Uttam, so you can offer your full respect. We have to know these symptoms. It's very important to know the different adhikars of the different devotees. It's very important. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.46 describes the behavior of a Madhyam Vaishnava as follows. Ishvare tad apineshu balisheshu visheshtu cha. Prema Maitri Kripaksha Ya Karoti Sa Madhyamaha. A Madhyam Bhagavat is one who loves Ishvara, is friendly towards his bhaktas, shows mercy towards those who are ignorant of bhakti, and neglects those who are inimical to Ishvara or his bhaktas. He doesn't fight with them, he neglects them. The behavior being described here is classified in the realm of Nitya Dharma. Sorry. But I am not referring here to Naimitic Dharma, temporary religious or worldly duties. The behavior that I am describing is part of Nitya Dharma, and it is essential in the life of a Vaishnava. Other types of behavior that are not opposed to this behavior may be accepted where necessary. So he's not going to describe those lower stages. He's bringing us to a point of madhyam straight away, madhyam consideration. A Vaishnava's behavior is directed towards four categories of individuals. 1. Ishvara, Supreme Lord. 2. Tad Adina, his bhaktas. Balisha, Balish, materialistic people who are ignorant of spiritual truth. And Veshi, those who are opposed to bhakti. These four types of personality, we need to know, spot them. A Vaishnava shows love, friendship, mercy, and neglect, respectively, to these four kinds of individuals. In other words, he behaves lovingly towards Ishvara, with friendship towards the bhaktas, and mercifully towards the ignorant. He neglects those who are inimical. It's very clear? It's very clear. But we need to refresh regularly. 1. The first characteristic of a Madhyam Vaishnava is that he has prema for Sri Krishna. He is the Supreme Lord of all. Who is the Supreme Lord of all? The word prema here refers to Shuddha Bhakti, whose symptoms have been described as follows in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So we understand, as we've mentioned many times, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita will bring us to the threshold of bhakti. They're not going to carry us into the full madhyam conception. They're bringing us to the threshold. So we should appreciate that. Krishna is asking Arjuna to surrender, Sharanagati, that's the conclusion. So we should appreciate that. If someone walks around all day only speaking Bhagavad Gita but doesn't go further than that, then their education has become limited to some degree. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was so merciful. He gave us the Bhagavad Gita in every single line because that's what we needed. We've got to understand that we were in a very depleted condition, barbarians from the Western worlds, not even knowing how to eat, how to go to the bathroom, what to eat. We didn't know anything. Isn't it true? We just came out of the woods like tribals. So we were Kanishtas fully, and he was very mercifully guiding us through, especially according to the precepts of Bhagavad Gita. Precepts of Bhagavad Gita are sublime. But when you come to the Madhyam stage, you will see the excellence of bhakti within the Gita. But initially, we need those in the neophyte stage. We approach it differently. It's quite distinct. The kindergarten is quite distinct from the high school, which is quite distinct from the university, which is quite distinct from the post-university studies, right? They're all completely different categories of educational opportunities. So we have to see like that, clearly delineated it's not all a big mishmash of just devotional service all one like that. It's quite distinctly step by step our progress. Anyavilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhakti uttama. Uttam Bhakti is the consummate endeavor to serve Sri Krishna in a favorable mood. It is free from any other desire, and it is not covered by knowledge of impersonal Brahm, by the daily periodic duties outlined in the Smriti Shastras, or by renunciation, yoga, sankhya, and other types of dharma. So I think we've gone over our time here actually, but we'll continue tomorrow trying to understand who is a pure Vaishnava. This chapter is very remarkable. Later on, the young boy Nityananda wants to know his own adhikar, and we should also want to appreciate our own adhikars. Which level am I up to? We want to appreciate that, and not just out of blanket humility, oh, I'm the most fallen, but actually, my Gurudev used to say all the time, don't think you have no bhakti. If you have no bhakti, what sort of guru am I? That's what he'd tell us. If you don't think you have any bhakti, then what sort of guru have you got? If your guru hasn't given you any bhakti, of course you've got bhakti, but to what level of bhakti? So that we can strengthen our relationships with others who are on this path in a correct way, knowing who has and who hasn't got that. Always looking for that bhakti current, because that's what is going to nourish us. That's what we're searching for. Who are those people who have that bhakti current? We're hungry for that. Okay, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So now we've come to our subject for the day, which is chapter 8. And Haridas Mahashai, Babaji, is describing to the young devotee, Nityananda, about the distinctions between the Vaishnavas, how to properly honor Vaishnavas, we can't respect Vaishnavas fully until we understand the platform of the Vaishnavas. So on page 169, we're on. So the last thing we read was this beautiful verse. I'm going to read it again because it's so important. My Gurudev would have us speak this verse at every single festival he ever went to, because he wanted to establish fully what is Shuddha Bhakti. Unless you know what is Shuddha Bhakti, what sort of practice can you have to attain Shuddha Bhakti? So in this verse, Anyabilasita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam, Bhakti Uttama. Bhakti Uttama. This is Uttam Bhakti. That means it's not a rope siddha bhakti. It's not Sangha siddha bhakti. It's Swarup siddha bhakti. Swarup siddha bhakti is that Uttam Bhakti with no gyan consideration and no karma desires. Karma, jnana karmadi anavritam. These are expelled. So Rupa Goswami has given us this verse. This anyabilas, no desires, completely shunyam, beyond, which you could refer to as being the Brahman also, where you have no desires. But there's no Krishna there also, because it's the second two lines of this is called the Swarup Lakshan. The first two are called the Tatashta Lakshan, the external consideration. The second two are called the Swarup Lakshan, that's the internal consideration. And this is Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam, this service with mood, with bhav, favorably, for Krishna's pleasure, exactly as the gopis perform. We are trying to follow in the footsteps of Krishna's beloved gopis. This is why Krishna came with his gopis, to show us directly. Follow them. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusyam deha ashrita bhajate tat rishi kritva yashrutva tatparo bhavet. This Krishna is saying that he manifests to demonstrate the wonderment of his pastimes, to attract the jivas to service to him, and particularly the gopis, because they're pleasing Krishna the most. Huh? He wanted Uddhav to see the height of the gopis' prem, because in Dwarka and Mathura, they were considering that they had the highest prem for Krishna. They considered that they had the topmost love. So Uddhav came to Braj for 6 or 7 months, and he understood that he wasn't even on the map as far as prem is concerned. My Gurudev used to describe regularly like somebody wearing a hat looking so high up, the hat drops off your back of your head at the height of the love of the gopis in Uddhav Keri in particular, when he came for that time. When he sees Srimati Radhika in that bewildered state, Divyan Mad, completely lost her mind practically, and then speaking Chitra Jalpa, these 10 verses of Chitra Jalpa, this Vijalpa, Ujalpa, Sajalpa, Chitra Jalpa, all these different Jalpas, Sanjalpa, just bewildered talks. She's seeing a bumblebee coming and she's thinking that the bumblebee is either Krishna or a messenger from Krishna, or is Uddhav himself. But she's not thinking like that. She's just thinking the bumblebee has come from Krishna. And she's chastising the bumblebee. And this is extraordinary. Her moods. And Uddhav is witnessing that. And then Krishna knows that Uddhav will come back and speak these truths to the Dwarkavasis. The name Uddhav means festival of joy. Uddhav gives so much joy to all the residents of Mathura and Dwarka. So much pleasure and bliss. He's a Jnani Bhakta in the sense that he understands Krishna's Aishwarya entirely. He understands how great he is. When he comes into the house of Nanda Baba and Mother Yashoda, Nanda Baba's completely beside himself because they're all feeling absolute devastation. And Uddhav's trying to tell Nanda Baba, Krishna's not really your son. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nanda Baba thinks, who is this person? Doesn't he know? Where is his heart? Where's his connection? But this is what a Jnani Bhakta will think. Like Bhishma Deva is the same. They think that Krishna is that supreme, mighty, person that you cannot have a relationship. Most people practicing this path prior to Mahaprabhu thought the same. They were on the path and road of Vaidhi Bhakti. Jad Bharat is the same in 5th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. All thinking that Krishna is that supreme personality of Godhead. And remember, my Gurudev used to tell us all the time, your Prabhupada, he's come to teach you that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And I've come to teach you that he's not. That is so deep expression. Because we had to know who was the supreme personality of Godhead first. If you don't get that first from Srila Prabhupada, you won't understand the second part. He gave the platform. He gave a we didn't even know who was God. Certainly not this bluish boy, and no conception at all. So he taught us who was Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, so we would have full honor and respect for him. But then, if you want to come to him through the path of Raganuga Bhakti, which is what Mahaprabhu has come to specifically give us, we can't do that without the Mahamantra. He's given us the means to reach that stage of consciousness through the Mahamantra and through the teachings of Rupa Goswami. What will be inspired by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, if you're a serious practitioner, is greed, hunger. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati kriyatam yati talapyate tatra lolyam api mulyam tatra mulyam janma koti sukritiyana labhyate. Remember that verse? I put it on the thread. You don't. These verses we put up are good to actually become familiar with. This is the first verse in the Rai Ramananda Samvad that Mahaprabhu is saying, oh, that's okay. This verse is saying, if you find anyone who has that greed, lolyam, then you should make all endeavor in your life to hear those teachings. Because it's that quality of greed, hunger, to wake up that loving propensity towards Krishna that is going to give us entrance into Raganuga Bhakti. Krishna, Mahaprabhu hasn't come to propagate Vaidhi Bhakti. Advaita Acharya could do like that. Nityananda can do like that. But Raganuga Bhakti, that is Mahaprabhu's personal gift. Premras niryase korite ashwadan rag mag bhakti loke karite prachan. He's come to give the jivas this Raganuga Bhakti in this world. That's why he's come. He hasn't come to give Vaidhi Bhakti. Understand, if there's so much Aishwarya and awe and reverence, there's like a cement wall around us as far as relationship is concerned. What's the atmosphere in Vaikuntha? It's all Aishwarya. It's the 3.5 rasas of Shantaras and Dasyaras principally, a little bit of Sakyaras, but it's 4 glorious stages of liberation. Sarupya, Samipya, Sharsti, Salokya. These are the 4 liberated conditions in Vaikuntha. And we read in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, Gop Kumar, he's in the assembly with Lord Narayan, and he wants to play his flute and dance around. They will say, shush, 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 shush. We're singing sacred mantras here. Don't behave like that. Don't act spontaneously. That's restricted because everyone is in awe and veneration of the Lord. And the Lord likes that mood. That's why Vaikuntha exists. And most jivas want to go to that place also. It's very rare that anyone wants to go to Goloka Vrindavan. It wasn't even heard of practically before Mahaprabhu advented. Jaidev Goswami mentions it to some degree, but practically there's no Bilvamangala Thakur is there, but very, very few are anxious to go to that place without the Aishwarya. The Aishwarya is almost like a security cover for us. If we think about it deeply.
It's an attraction, though. It's a certain type of
attraction. Yes, very good, very good. It is. It's a certain, yes, it's like in church. Yes, I'm worshipping. I feel great worshipping. It's like the worshipful Lord. But the conception of sambandha or relationship that Rupa Goswami and Mahaprabhu unlock and open, they're opening something new. It's as if this has never been come before. Even Jaidev Goswami couldn't write that verse. Remember? Smaragarala Kandanam, Mama Sirasi Mandanam, Dehi Padapalavam, Udaram. He couldn't write that Krishna is putting his flute and peacock feather at the lotus feet of Sri Radhika. How can he do that? Krishna's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can he put his feet, his head, at the lotus feet of Sri Radhika? How can he do like that? And then he left, and then Krishna himself had to come and write that verse. He didn't write it, Krishna wrote it. These are things that we should think. Huh?
Quite close to here. Yes.
Champahat, yes. It's the other direction from Mayapur, out on the road to Samudraga, towards Kalna, Katwa. We're not getting very far in our chapter today, and it's almost time to stop. My God, it is time to stop. This is because today I'm very blessed because I have 2 senior devotees in front of me, and we're getting good questions, and I just can't walk away from a deep inquiry. Naturally, the devotees become inspired when they hear inspirational questions and etc. So it's your fault that we have hardly covered any ground. But I haven't even started it. We haven't even come to the place where we were yesterday, and we're just about to finish too. One more question then.
Okay, so some people say at the end of Srila Prabhupada's life, he wanted to introduce he said 50% of my life was not completed, that I didn't do Varnashram.
Exactly, yes.
So it seems like Prabhupada had a compassionate mood for the whole world.
Absolutely.
To bring them in.
Absolutely. This Rag Marg is very, very exclusive. It's likened to the Christian mystics or something like that, or the Sufis in Islam. It's a very much minority. It's not that everyone ever will get on the path of Raganuga Bhakti. But if we are intelligent followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we should have some interest in why Mahaprabhu has come. For what purpose has he come? Prabhupada has laid the foundation for the whole globe. Absolutely, Rishi. Totally.
Yeah.
The most compassionate, munificent personality. And he wanted to implement again this Varnashram system, because we've talked a lot about Varnashram. And it has great qualities. Of course it has great qualities, but it's not nitya. It's naimitic. It's temporary. It's about the body. My body is a Brahman. My body is a Vaishya. My body is a Sudra. My body is a Kshatriya.
But it brings you to respect.
It can elevate you. Yes. That's why Varnashram is necessary. It's like Karma Yoga or Gyan Yoga. They're necessary because they're links on the path to Bhakti Yoga. But if you take one out separately and say, no, it's just karma yoga, let's just follow karma yoga, then you've got a whole different movement. And if you just take out Gyan Yoga, then you've got all the yogis. You've got another movement. They're all a continuous steps on a ladder. This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has brought out in 3 chapters, very, very clearly, this ladder. So Varnashram is a step, like this Rai Ramananda Sambhad is complete in all the conceptions, because it leads to the highest conception of describing Radharani's 3 baths in the day, the bath of compassion initially, and then the bath of youthfulness, and then the bath of beauty. I mean, such esoteric topics are there. If someone thinks that Prabhupada didn't write about these most deepest subject matters, then they have to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. But this path of Ramananda Rai, it goes from Varnashram, then to Karma Yoga, then Gyan Yoga, then Gyan Sunya Yoga, etc. All these step-by-steps are there. And then it comes to that verse that I said, Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati. Kriyata. That means if you hear of these topics going on anywhere, run to them. Because that's what the heart needs. The heart only wants love. But won't find it in the material world. It'll get burnt again and again and again.
We love it.
We love it. Yeah, we do. We love the journey. That's why we stay here. It's true. Okay. So I hope everyone can tolerate that we didn't read very much of Jaiva Dharma tonight. But these are all topics surrounding the teachings of Jaiva Dharma. And it's healthy to bring them out in different circumstances. So the last thing we read was on page 168, the beautiful verse Sanyabilasita Shunyam. So I won't go there again today. We want to move along. So page 169. And I'm just going to try to just read as much as we can to. We're discussing etiquette between Vaishnavas, and it's principled on love. A Kanishta doesn't have so much love developed. A Madhyam has more love developed, and Uttam is on the very topmost level of love and affection. That's what the symptoms are. So from the first paragraph on page 169, bhakti that is imbued with such characteristics is first found in the sudden practice of a Madhyam Vaishnava, and it extends up to the stages of bhav and prem. We cannot actually achieve the stage of prem in this body. Our body would explode. We can achieve the stage of bhav. Bhav we can come to. But prem is not in this birth. Prem could be in another birth. The only characteristic the bhakta of the Kanishta, the only characteristic in the bhakta of the Kanishta is that of service to the deity with faith. So he's serving the deity, but that's not really a directly reciprocal relationship in the same way as it is for the Madhyam. Such a person does not have the characteristic of Uttam Bhakti, namely Anyabilasita Sunyam, freedom from ulterior desires, Jnana Karmadi Anabrita, freedom from the coverings of impersonal knowledge and fruitive action, and Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam, consummate endeavors to serve Krishna in a favorable mood. The Kanishta is not the embodiment of this Anyabilasita Sunyam. This Anyabilasita Sunyam is focused on describing what is Uttam Bhakti. Yes, definitely a Madhyam. A Madhyam is where we are. We're hoping to be on that place. We should quickly come to the Madhyam platform. My Gurudev used to say like this, quickly come out of this Kanishta mood. The Kanishta is considered to have become a Madhyam Vaishnava and a genuine Bhakta when Bhakti with these symptoms manifests in his heart. Prior to this stage, he is a Prakrita Bhakta, which means that he is only a semblance of a Bhakta, Bhakti Abbas, or a semblance of a Vaishnava, Vaishnava Abbas. Abbas means like the sun is just rising. The word Krishnanushilanam refers to prem, love for Krishna, and it is qualified by the word Anukulyena, This refers to those that are favorable to Krishna Prem, namely friendship with the bhaktas, mercy towards the ignorant, and neglect of those who are inimical. These three items are also symptoms of a Madhyam Vaishnava. So this compassionate mood, if this compassionate mood for the fallen jivas, why do all the acharyas want the neophytes or the kanishtas to go out doing book distribution and things like this? Prasadam distribution is to get a mood of this compassion, to try to understand the uh, destitute nature of the conditioned soul, which we just were. But as we're coming out, to try and help them. And that helping alone is a symptom of bhakti by that compassionate nature. That will develop from there. That must be there. The second characteristic of a Madhyam Vaishnava is his friendship towards bhaktas, in whose hearts Shuddha Bhakti has appeared, and who are submissive to Bhagavan's will. Kanishta Bhaktas are not Shuddha Bhaktas, fully submissive to Bhagavan, and they do not offer respect or hospitality to Shuddha Bhaktas. Therefore, Madhyam and Uttam Bhaktas are the only suitable people with whom to develop intimate relationships. We know the example that's always given of a Kanishta. He's doing the puja in the temple, and a Vaishnava arrives. But he neglects the Vaishnava and continues doing the puja. He doesn't run to serve the living embodiment of the deity. He just continues to serve the deity. This is always the example we're given of a Kanishta. In 3 successive years, the Bhaktas of Kulinyagram asked Sriman Mahaprabhu, what is a Vaishnava, and what are the symptoms by which he can be recognized? Sri Mahaprabhu replied by instructing them about Uttam, Madhyam, and Kanishta Vaishnavas. Now, according to the characteristics of his description, all 3 of those classes, as he described them, meet the standards that I have defined for Madhyam and Uttam. Vaishnavas, none of them correspond to the Kanishta Bhaktas, who are only capable of worshipping the deity form because they do not utter Shuddha Krishna Nam. Their chanting is known as Chaya Namabas. Chaya Namabas refers to a semblance of the pure name, obscured by ignorance and anarthas, like the sun covered by clouds, which does not manifest its full brilliance. Generally, the Kanishtas are like smartas. They're performing their ritualistic activities, but they're not really considering that those rituals have a tangible meaning in relationship to Krishna's bhaktas. They're just running through like robots, just doing the duties, but without really, no feeling is attached to it. No mood is coming. This is like a Kanishta. Mahaprabhu instructed Madhyam Adhikari Grihastha Vaishnavas to serve the 3 kinds of Vaishnavas, which he describes as follows. One from whose mouth Krishna Nam is heard even once, one from whose mouth Krishna Nam is heard constantly, and one whose very sight spontaneously evokes the chanting of Sri Krishna Nam. All these 3 types of Vaishnavas are worthy of service. But this is not true of one who only utters Nam Abas and not Shuddha Krishna Nam. Only Vaishnavas who utter Shuddha Nam are worthy of service. Very important. That Kanishta, he cannot chant Shuddha Nam because his heart, when the heart breaks, it opens, and like a seed will come out of the opening, like any seed you put in the ground. It's very hard, right? But when it cracks open, then the sprout comes out. So similarly with the heart, when the heart cracks, the seed of devotion will emerge. So the Kanishta, his heart hasn't cracked yet. It's still encased in the hard material considerations of matter. He hasn't broken that open yet. But when he understands his transcendental nature, when he's become even a little bit mature in understanding who he is in relationship to Krishna, then that seed will begin to crack, and then the sprout of potentially prem will manifest. We are instructed to serve the Vaishnavas in accordance with their respective levels of advancement. This is why he's describing all this, because the young boy at the beginning, Nityananda, he's asked, how can I respect the Vaishnavas? This is about etiquette, because respect is a symptom of love. It's part of love. Respect, if we're very respectful in all our relationships, that means I'm having a very sensitive, loving vision of all the personalities around me. So respect is there. The word Maitri signifies association, conversation, and service. As soon as one sees a pure Vaishnava, one should receive him respectfully, converse with him, and fulfill his needs as far as one is able. One should serve him in all these ways, and one should never envy him. This enviousness. If someone comes and they are on a high level of realization, but we are immediately, well, I want to be better than him, or something like that. We become envious of him rather than joyful. This is that dormant reason for why we are even in this material world. One should not criticize him even by accident, or disrespect him, even if his appearance is unattractive or if he has some disease. It's not about the external situation, it's the internal. It's the heart, the transcendental heart of the jiva. The third characteristic of the Madhyam Vaishnava is that he bestows mercy on the ignorant. The word Balisha refers to people who are ignorant of spiritual truth, bewildered or foolish. It means materialistic people who have not received any genuine guidance in spiritual matters, but have not been contaminated by unauthorized doctrines such as Mayavad. There's a distinction. The Mayavads are something different. These are just ignorant fools, which are most of the populace. They are not envious of bhaktas and bhakti, but their mundane egoism and attachment prevents them from developing faith in Ishvara. Again, it's that block, that like cement wall of the egoism, wanting to perform, dance frantically on this stage of life, enacting all their various karmic desires. Learned scholars also belong to this category if they have not attained the highest fruit of study, which is to develop faith in Ishvara. So the Gyanis are also like Kanishtas if they haven't developed this sambandha with Ishvara. The Kanishta Adhikari Prakrita Bhakta is standing at the doorway to the temple of Bhakti, but because of ignorance in the principles of Sambandha Gyan, he has not yet attained Shuddha Bhakti. Such a person is also regarded as Balisha until he comes to the platform of Shuddha Bhakti. Again, I have to just remind us all to try to read this beautiful book, Bhakti Tattva Vivek. It describes exactly these topics in great detail. He awakens taste when he becomes acquainted with the truth of Sambandha Gyan and awakens taste for Shuddha Harinam in the association of pure bhaktas, his ignorance will be dissipated and he will attain the status of a Madhyam Vaishnava. It is essential that a Madhyam Vaishnava should bestow his mercy upon all the above mentioned ignorant people. He should treat them as guests and should satisfy their needs as far as he is able. But that is not enough in itself. He should also act in such a way as to awaken their faith in Ananya Bhakti and their taste for Shuddhanam. In other words, it's not enough just to be nice and kind to people, be a generous-hearted soul. That's not enough. That's like we have different faiths like Christian, etc. Even the Sikhs, they perform so many nice activities, feeding people and so on. This is good. It's a start of a sattvic mood, but without giving Krishna, then I can remember when I was in Sydney, there's a place called King's Cross, which is where all the bums, the hobos are, the poor people, the beggars. And the Christians would go there at Christmas time and give them a cup of coffee, a meat pie, and a cigarette. In complete ignorance, right? Isn't it? That's what they would do in Australia. But the devotees would go and give them a book. Look, my dear friend, here's how you can get out of your terrible situation. What a difference. One is being kind, or they're thinking they're being kind, but being kind in ignorance, and the other is being kind, generous-hearted in knowledge. He should give them Ananya Bhakti. He should also act in such a way as to awaken their faith in Ananya Bhakti and their taste for Shuddha Nam. That is the real meaning of mercy. The ignorant may be victimized by bad association and may fall down at any time because they lack expertise in Shastra. Very weak if we don't have some expertise in Shastra. The Madhyam Vaishnava should always protect such susceptible people from bad association. He should mercifully give them his association and gradually instruct them in spiritual matters and in the glories of Shuddha Nam. So in any condition of any mature devotee, he should act like a guru. It's saying, there's a beautiful verse, I can't remember it now, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that all should become like guru. Everyone should become like guru. In whichever, it doesn't mean you have to sit on a high seat and expect lots of garlands and all pranami and everything. It means you should just be in a position of responsibility to try to encourage a conditioned soul across the line of ignorance. That's what it actually means. At the end, that's what guru means in that capacity. I can't remember that verse. A diseased person must be under the care of a physician because he cannot cure himself. Just as one should pardon the anger of a diseased person, one should also excuse the improper behavior of the ignorant, just like a child. Child acts so obnoxiously sometimes, but the mature adult will forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive, knowing he's a child. You see? So if you know they're ignorant, forgive. This attitude is known as mercy. The ignorant have many misconceptions, such as faith in karmakand, occasional inclination towards gyan, worshipping the deity with ulterior motive, faith in yoga, indifference towards the association of pure Vaishnavas, attachment to Varnashram, and many other things. Wow, he's just encapsulated all in a single sentence. However, the Kanishta Adhikari can quickly become a Madhyam Adhikari when these misconceptions are dispelled by good association, mercy, and good instructions. That's all we need, Sadhu Sangha. When such people begin to worship the deity of Bhagavan, it may be understood that they have laid the foundation of all auspiciousness. Of this there is no doubt. They do not have the defect of adhering to false doctrines, and for this reason they have a scent of true Shraddha. Their deity worship is not like that of the Mayavadis, who do not have even a trace of Shraddha for the deity, and who are offenders at the lotus feet of Bhagavan. We see here in Bengal, Durga Puja is there, and they have so many murtis all over, beautiful murtis. And as soon as Durga Puja is finished, they carry them in big procession to the Ganga and throw them away. Always. You go down to the Ganga in any place and you see all these broken deities there. They chuck them away. It was never really the deity that they were worshipping. They're just worshipping it for some fruitive desire, from fruitive result. Where are we up to? However, the Kanishta Adhikari becomes quickly Madhyam. Oh, yeah. When such people begin, yes, they do not have the defect of adhering to false. Their deity worship is not like that, yes. They have a trace of Shraddha. That is why the words Shraddhaya ihate, he worships with faith, have been used in the shloka 11.247 that describe the Kanishta Bhakta. That is why the words Shraddhaya ihate, he worships with faith, have been used in the shloka that describes the Kanishta Bhakta. I don't understand that.
Yeah, Kanishta Bhakta, he has faith unlike these Mayavadis.
Okay, very good, yes. He has faith unlike the Mayavadis. Perfect. Thank you. The philosophical outlook. Oh, I was going to tell you something. I've just remembered that we passed by the other day how Krishna is referenced as being the elder brother of Gada. So it says here, Sri Krishna, the elder brother of Gada. So who is Gada? Vasudeva had 16 wives. Rohini was one of them, and Baladev comes from there. One of his wives also is Devaki, and Devaki's sister is also a wife of Vasudeva. Her name is Devaki Sita, and she has a son called Gada, who is younger than Krishna, and that son was a powerful son, so he's known, and so Krishna is sometimes called the elder brother of Gada. He's identified with that son. So that son is the son of Devaki Sita, who is another wife of Vasudeva. That's who the Gada is. Just information there. The philosophical outlook lodged in the heart of Mayavadis and proponents of other similar doctrines is that Bhagavan has no form and that the deity which is worshipped is simply an imaginary icon. Under such circumstances, how can there be any faith in the deity? As a result, there is a significant difference between deity worship of Mayavadis and that of even the most neophyte Vaishnavas. Well, we see a Vaishnava doesn't throw his Thakurji in the Ganga after he thinks he's got some result. But you see, in Durga Puja, these deities look absolutely beautiful. They're huge. They take up a whole room. And they're really splendid, beautifully decorated and everything. And then they inspire faith for a little while, and then the worshippers think that they're going to get the result of their prayers. Then they just discard them. That's not deity worship. Kanistha Adhikari Vaishnavas worship the deity with faith, knowing that Bhagavan possesses personal form and attributes. Mayavadis, however, believe that Bhagavan has no form or attributes, and that the deity is therefore imaginary and temporary. Neophytes are not guilty of the offense of Mayavad, and that is why they are accepted as Prakrita Vaishnavas, materialistic devotees. So see the distinction here between Mayavads and neophytes, and Kanishtas rather. Even though they do not possess any other Vaishnava characteristics. This is where their Vaishnavism is found. On the strength of this one quality, and by the mercy of sadhus, they will certainly gradually be elevated. Madhyam Adhikari Vaishnavas must be genuinely merciful towards such people, and if they are, the neophyte bhakta's worship of the deity and his chanting of Harinam will quickly rise from the Abhas stage to the purely transcendental stage. The Madhyam Vaishnava's fourth characteristic is neglect towards those who are inimical. Here we must define enmity and describe its different types. Dvesh, enmity, is a particular attitude which is also known as matsarata, envy, and which is exactly the opposite of love. Ishvara is the only object of love, and Dvesh is the attitude that is directly opposite to love for him. There are 5 different types of Dvesh. This is really powerful teaching. 1. Absence of faith in Ishvara. 2. The belief that Ishvara is nothing more than a natural potency that brings about the results of all action. In other words, Kamakand. 3. The belief that Ishvara has no particular form. 4. The belief that the jivas are not eternally subordinate to Ishvara. And 5. The absence of mercy. So these 5 are really important to appreciate. Who is not even a Kanishta? These are people who are opposed to the worship of Krishna. And perhaps we have been all of these types of people. But by hearing, by sadhu sangha, how much have we become purified? We can consider like this. 30, 40 years ago? How much were we like this, not knowing who was God, not even wanting to know who was God? So see in our own personal examples how much Sadhu Sangha has affected our consciousnesses. And again, celebrate that, where we have come from. It's always helpful, because many times the devotee, because we're climbing such a high mountain, that we're not considering how far we've actually come. So we should be encouraged to how far we have come. We're actually sitting here patiently hearing Jaiva Dharma in Godrum Dweep, which is pretty amazing. And the listeners on the line, they're also receiving the same channel of enthusiasm from Godrum Dweep. So we're all getting there. So the 6 o'clock bell just went, but we can finish one more paragraph. Individuals whose hearts are contaminated by these inimical attitudes are absolutely bereft of Shuddha Bhakti. They do not even have Prakrita Bhakti, the rudimentary devotion that is the doorway to Shuddha Bhakti, and which is represented by the neophyte Bhakta's worship of the deity, not even Kanishta. The 5 types of enmity are found to coexist with attachment to material sense enjoyment. Sometimes the 3rd and 4th types of enmity lead to such an extreme form of asceticism or aversion towards the world that it culminates in self-annihilation. That 3rd and 4th is the belief that Ishvara has no particular form, and the belief that the jivas are not eternally subordinate to Ishvara. In other words, consumed by envy. This is seen in the lives of Mayavad sannyasis. How should Shuddha Bhaktas behave towards such inimical people? It is their duty to avoid them. The word upeksha, neglect, does not imply that one should abandon all social dealings that are normal between human beings, nor does it mean that one should fail to alleviate an inimical person's difficulty or deprivation if he falls into distress. I'll read this tomorrow. We'll stop here, we'll conclude here. But this becomes very engrossing, very fascinating. Okay, so we'll keep going. Jai Vedama ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. It's very thick. It's actually very dense, you know. I'm trying to read it quickly, but we can't just gloss it at the same time. And I think when we've ever had an experience of reading it like this, then when you read any other book, you'll also apply the same methodical examination from, studying it this way. Then when you pick up another book, you won't just quickly, because every sentence generally has some purport and meaning. And it's not, the goal to quickly finish lots of books. It's the goal to get realization of just even a few scriptures. So we're doing our best. Jai Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Jai Vedama ki jai. So we come back to page 174, chapter 8, and we've just described those who are to be dvesh, who are dvesh. They have enmity, envy towards the Lord. So there was 5 of those points we discussed yesterday was the last thing. Absence of faith in Ishvara, belief that Ishvara is nothing more than a natural potency that brings about results of all actions, in other words, karma yoga. Number 3, the belief that Ishvara has no particular form, impersonal. 4, the belief that the jivas are not eternally subordinate to Ishvara. And number 5, the absence of mercy. These are the symptoms of demons, and they're to be avoided. So we come to the next page now, and still continuing the discussion in this mood. The word apeksha, neglect, does not imply that one should abandon all social dealings that are normally between human beings. Nor does it mean that one should fail to alleviate an inimical person's difficulty or deprivation if he falls into distress. This is just common sense, basically. It means you're not a fanatic. And you don't speak Krishna, I won't speak to you. You can give a book to a butcher. Why not? We want to help everybody, just like Jagai and Madai were helped by Mahaprabhu. We want to mirror that same depth of compassion that he had. That's there, in the heart, in potential, as much as our spiritual reality is there. This overwhelming compassion, it's there in the heart. We should always stay tuned to that when we can help and assist anybody, of course. Nor does it mean that one should fail to alleviate an inimical person's difficulty or deprivation if he falls into distress. Grihastha Vaishnavas remain within society, so they have many types of relationships, for instance, with relatives through marriage and with others through business dealings, through the maintenance of property and bringing up of animals, through endeavoring to mitigate the suffering and ailments of others, and through their position as citizens of the state. All these have to be attended to nicely. Because if you attend to them nicely, people will feel favorably about you. And then if you do happen to, by some chance, get an opportunity to speak to them about something more significant, they'll have built a respect for you. But if you just walk around trying to hammer everybody, that's not going to engender a respectful response, is it? We used to do that in the old days. When we first joined, we didn't know. We did all sort of, he's a demon, and be really ruthless. But Grihastha Vaishnavas remain within society, so they have many types of relation. Oh, I said all that. These different social relations entail connection with inimical people, and avoidance does not mean that one should at once give them up. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is just explaining this for the fanatics, trying to explain it. We see with affection, and we have to deal with everyone around us. All our relationships and so on should be balanced. These different social relations entail connection with inimical people, and avoidance does not mean that one should at once give them up. One is obliged to conduct routine affairs and interact with people who are indifferent to Ishvara, but one should not take their association when it comes to spiritual matters. Taking association means you're sharing your very confidential thoughts. If a devotee starts to share his confidential thoughts with a non-devotee doesn't know that there's no such thing as death, really, for the devotee. For the devotee, there is no death. There's just a transition of the body. But the non-devotee thinks this life is everything. And if you don't do according to the karmic endeavors in this life, you're going to have a really, like, for example, a mother will tell a son in the non-devotee world, you must get married, you must get married, you must suffer like me, you must take a wife and get married. But if the son is inclined to spiritual life, then that's not always encouraged. But we should understand this sharing. We can share with devotees who understand that I'm spirit soul, not this material body. But a non-devotee doesn't begin to appreciate that platform. They take all the material world very, very seriously. It's like their life and death. Some members of one's own family may acquire a malicious nature as a result of their sinful activities from a previous life. Should one abandon such people? Certainly not. One should deal with them without attachment insofar as ordinary affairs are concerned, but one should not associate them for spiritual matters. Understand? It's very clear? It's clear. Upeksha should be applied in this regard, means neglect. Spiritual association means to meet together for the purpose of spiritual advancement, to discuss topics of eternal truth, and to render reciprocal service and welfare that awakens one's devotional sentiments. Upeksh means avoiding the association of people with whom such types of exchange are not possible. Upeksh means neglect. We should just neglect them, that's all. When an inimical person who has adopted discordant or inconsistent opinions hears glorification of Shuddha Bhakti or virtuous instructions regarding Bhakti, he will immediately retort with some futile argument which is not beneficial for you or for him. Yes, I always encourage devotees never to preach to their family members if they're inimical. Your mother will always see you as a small child. It's not dharmic for you to instruct your mother. I just had to say this today to some of the Gurukulis. They're preaching to their mothers and making discord. This is useless. Just show them by shining example the improvement of your character, and then they will start to have some respect for the path that you follow, and then wait for them to inquire about your respectful behavior, and then they will feel genuinely affectionate towards you. It's only in the channel, so to speak, or the area of affection that this path can be described. Because the spiritual world is only made of love. It's not made of anything else. So that's the connection we want to make. If it's inimical and discordant, like he's saying, that's not going to reap any positive result. So sometimes we have to work and make sacrifice on this one. One should avoid such fruitless arguments and interact with such people only as far as necessary in routine social dealings. One may think that one should include inimical people among the ignorant and therefore bestow mercy upon them. But if one does so, one will not help them and will only harm oneself. One should be benevolent, but with caution. You've got to read between the lines here. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is just saying common sense about how to behave properly in public, etc., with everybody. Madhyam Adhikari Shuddha Bhaktas should certainly follow these 4 instructions. If they neglect to do so in any way, they become guilty of behaving improperly and thus fail to do that for which they are qualified. This is considered a serious defect, as explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.21.2. Sve sve dikare ya nishta sa guna parikirtita viparyasya tu dosha syad ubhayo esha nishchaya. To be firmly established in the duties one is authorized to perform is a good quality, whereas failure to do so is a fault. Good qualities and faults are ascertained in this way. Understand? We have to do our duty in nurturing, but not in giving association to non-devotees. In other words, good qualities and faults are determined according to one's eligibility and not by any other criteria. According to the Shastras, the Madhyam Adhikari Shuddha Bhakta should develop prema for Krishna and friendship with his pure bhaktas. He should be merciful to the ignorant and should neglect those who are inimical. The degree of friendship that the Madhyam Bhakta establishes with other bhaktas should be in keeping with the degree of their advancement in bhakti. This is what this whole chapter is about, learning how to respect each other's position on the path of bhakti. And according to that path, we will respect them accordingly. The degree of friendship should be keeping a degree with their advancement in bhakti. The degree of mercy that he bestows upon the ignorant depends on their degree of sincerity or foolishness, and the extent to which he neglects the inimical depends on the degree of their enmity. The Madhyam Bhakta considers all these things as he interacts with others in spiritual affairs. Worldly affairs should be conducted in a straightforward manner, but should always be performed with consideration to the ultimate spiritual benefit. I can remember my Gurudev sometimes in Mathura. He'd listen to this one old lady. She'd come and cluck, 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 and just talk to my Gurudev would just listen to this. And then he'd be waiting for her to say one thing of significance, and then he could just jump on that. And then he'd start talking about that, make a conversation about that thing. Because she had so many other things to say, worldly things. But every now and again she said something that had some significance. And then my Gurudev would catch that piece and then try to elaborate on it for her. Just then, a resident of Baragachi named Nityananda Das interrupted by saying, "What is the behavior of Uttam Bhaktas?" Slightly startled, Babaji Mahashai said, Brother, you have asked a question that I'm just in the process of answering. Let me finish what I have to say. I'm an old man and my memory is fading. If the subject matter changes too abruptly, I will forget what I was going to say." Haridas was a strict Babaji. Although he never found fault with anyone, he was quick to respond when anyone spoke inappropriately. Everyone was stunned to hear his words. Again he offered pranam to Nityananda Prabhu at the foot of the banyan tree and resumed speaking. Babaji. When the bhakti of the Madhyam Vaishnava progresses beyond the stages of sadhan and bhav and comes to the level of prem, it becomes highly condensed. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur put that little interruption in deliberately to show us not to interrupt and to behave according. He's just explaining about respectful dealings. So this young Nityananda has not demonstrated respectful dealings by interrupting him. This is the teachings of this chapter, to be considerate in our relationships and respectful and with care. It becomes highly condensed, and at that time the Vaishnavas become an Uttam Bhakta. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.45 describes the symptoms of an Uttam Vaishnava as follows. Sarva Bhuteshu Yad Pashyet Bhavad Bhagavad Bhavam Atmanaha Bhutani Bhagavati Atmane Esha Bhagavatottama. One who sees his own Bhagavad Bhav, ecstatic mood of attraction towards Sri Krishna Chandra in the hearts of all jivas, Sarva Bhuteshu, and sees all beings within Sri Krishna Chandra is an Uttam Bhagavat. He sees all of that. An Uttam Vaishnava perceives that all living beings love Bhagavan with the same particular feeling of transcendental love that he himself cherishes towards his Ishtadev. He also perceives that Bhagavan feels a reciprocal attitude of love towards all living beings. An Uttam Vaishnava has no disposition other than this mood of transcendental love. Other moods arise from time to time according to different circumstances, but they are all transformations of prem. For example, Shukadev Goswami was an Uttam Bhagavat, but he described Kamsa in words such as Bhoja Pamshula, a disgrace to the Bhoja dynasty. Although it appears as if these words were spoken out of enmity towards Kamsa, they are actually a manifestation of prem towards Krishna. Understand? It's because he loves Krishna so much that he's speaking in a rough way about Kamsa. When Shuddha Prem becomes the very life of a bhakta, he is known as an Uttam Bhagavat. In this condition, there is no longer any distinction between love, friendship, mercy, and neglect, as in the case of a Madhyam Adhikari. All his behavior becomes a manifestation of prem, and there is no difference in his eyes between a Kanishta, Madhyam, or Uttam Vaishnava, nor is there any difference between a Vaishnava and a non-Vaishnava. This advanced condition is extremely rare. Extremely rare. Just consider now that a Kanishta Vaishnava does not render service to Vaishnavas, and an Uttam Vaishnava does not make any distinction between Vaishnavas and non-Vaishnavas, for he sees all jivas as servants of Krishna. This means that only Madhyam Vaishnavas offer respect to Vaishnavas and render service to them. A Madhyam Vaishnava must serve the three kinds of Vaishnavas: those who chant Krishna Nam even once, those who chant Krishna Nam constantly, and those whose mere sight automatically causes Krishna Nam to dance on one's tongue. Three types. A Vaishnava may be considered a Vaishnava, a superior Vaishnava, or a superlative Vaishnava, according to his degree of advancement. A Madhyam Bhakta should serve Vaishnavas according to their status. This is what this chapter is about. How to learn the distinctions between these gradations of Vaishnavas so you can offer them appropriate respect. Only an Uttam Vaishnava will conclude that it is improper to consider whether a Vaishnava is Kanishta, Madhyam, or Uttam. If a Madhyam Adhikari Vaishnava thinks in this way, he will become an offender. Sriman Mahaprabhu indicated this to the residents of Kolinyagram, and his instructions are to be revered even more than the Vedas by all Madhyam Vaishnavas. And what are the Vedas? Is that right? And what are the Vedas or Shruti? They are the orders of Parameshwara. Having said this much, Haridas Babaji became silent for a moment. At this time, Nityananda Das Babaji of Baragachi folded his hands and said, "May I ask a question now?" Haridas replied, "As it pleases you." Babaji Mahashai, to which category of Vaishnava do you think I belong? Am I a Kanishta or a Madhyam Vaishnava? I am certainly not an Uttama Vaishnava. Haridas Babaji Mahashai smiled a little and said, "Brother, can one who has received the name Nityananda Das be anything other than an Uttam Vaishnava?" In other words, Haridas is demonstrating to us his level of Uttam Vaishnava. My Nitai is very merciful. Even when he is beaten, he gives prem in return. So if one takes his name and becomes his Das, need anything more be said? Nityananda Das, I sincerely want to know my actual position. Babaji, then tell me your whole story. If Nitai empowers me to speak, I shall say something. Nityananda Das, I took birth in a low caste family in a small village on the bank of the Padmavati river. I was very simple and humble by nature from childhood, and I always used to stay far away from bad company. I was married at an early age, but after some days my parents died, and my wife and I remained alone in the home. We did not have so much wealth, so we worked every day to maintain ourselves. Our days passed happily in this way, but this happiness did not last for long, for after a while she also left her body. Because of my separation from her, thoughts of detachment awakened in my mind. Near my village were many Vaishnavas who had renounced household life, and I saw that the people of Baragachi offered them great respect. I hankered for that respect very strongly, and because of the temporary feelings of detachment brought on by the death of my wife, I went to Baragachi and accepted the dress of a Vaishnava mendicant. However, after a few days my mind became fickle. It was possessed by wicked thoughts, and it became very difficult for me to control. But by great fortune I received the association of an excellent Vaishnava who is pure and simple. At present he is performing bhajan in Braja. With deep affection he gave me profound advice, kept me in his association, and purified my mind. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving an example that we can all benefit from here. We can all take something from this story. Everyone can take something. Now my mind is no longer disturbed by mischievous thoughts. I have developed taste for chanting 100,000 names of Harinam every day. That's a lakh. I understand that there is no difference between Sri Hari and Sri Nam, and that both are fully spiritual. I observe the Ekadashi fast according to Shastra and offer water to Tulsi. When the Vaishnavas perform kirtan, I also join with rapt attention. I drink the water that washes the feet of pure Vaishnavas. I study the Bhakti Shastras every day. I no longer desire to eat palatable food or dress nicely. I have no taste to hear or participate in mundane talks. When I see the Vaishnavas' ecstatic moods, a desire comes into my mind to roll on the ground at their feet, and sometimes I do so, but it is out of a desire for prestige. Now please give me your verdict. To which class of Vaishnava do I belong, and how should I behave? So it's very inspiring that this young man is able to reveal his heart in such a simple, direct way in an assembly of people without duplicity. This is how we're understanding this. He's expressing himself fully. The atmosphere of truth and honesty is prevailing here in this company of Vaishnavas. So he's responding to that and sharing his heart thoughts. There's no duplicity here. It doesn't appear to be that way. Haridas looked at Vaishnava Das Babaji with a smile and said, "Tell us to which class of Vaishnava does Nityananda Das belong?" Vaishnava Das, from what I have heard, he has surpassed the Kanishta stage and entered the Madhyam stage. Babaji, that is my feeling also. Nityananda, how wonderful! Today I have come to know of my true position from the mouths of the Vaishnavas. Please bestow your mercy upon me so that I may gradually come to the stage of an Uttam Vaishnava. Vaishnava Das. What? No, it's not. No, it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur is picking out. He has to pick out examples, but he's picking out positive examples. It's like soon we're going to come to the description of Brajanath and Vijay Kumar. His character is exemplary. The first time they take to chanting, they chant Shuddhanam almost immediately. So this can be possible. He's born in India, this Nityananda Das. He's born on the bank of the Padmavati River. That means he has some piety from previous birth. He's been relieved of all his family attachments by death. That means he has some sanskar to give him this opportunity. He has all this background of positivity.
This kind of discussion, like that kind of question posed.
Say again?
I mean, this kind of discussion, the question and the judgment of one's position is not very...
Everyone is going to be different. Every single person will have a different story, so to speak. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to put a classic sort of example of a Madhyam Adhikari. You understand? Everyone's story is different. We can write it according to Western stories, you know? It's not going to be just... Everyone is going to be different. But the principle of going beyond just worshipping the deity stage is being expressed here.
What I mean to say, it is not common to ask anyone what stage I am, and then never,
You have to consider your nishta to Thakurji, your nishta to Vaishnavas, your nishta to Harinam, your attraction to Harinam. All of these considerations you have to think about yourself. How much do you honor the holy Dham? How much do you honor the Vaishnavas? How much do you honor Sri Nam? The symptom of honoring Sri Nam is to chant more. If you only chant 16 rounds a day, that doesn't mean you have very much time in your day for Sri Nam. It means he's pretty much on the back burner. He's not a priority in your life. If you've understood the teachings of Mahaprabhu and what he has given, he's encouraged that everyone should chant a lakh. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada wanted all his disciples to chant a lakh initially, but then he realized that they couldn't. But by practice, we can increase our mala. That would be a symptom of determination and attraction to Nam. So then I can consider my own adhikar based on that. Success in my life. We have to be very ruthless in a sense in analyzing our qualification as a Vaishnava. It's not sentimental in any way. It's not just because I feel like this or I feel like that, but how is it in accordance with Shastra? What am I doing in accordance with Shastra? How much am I progressing? It's a serious, sober path to consider. You understand? It's not lightweight. It's not sentimental. It's not easy because we have to be very humble. Vaishnava Das, at the time that you accepted mendicancy, there was a desire for honor and prestige in your heart, and you were not actually qualified to enter the renounced order, and therefore your acceptance of mendicancy was tainted with flaw of unauthorized consideration. Should be with the flaw of unauthorized consideration. In spite of this, you have attained genuine auspiciousness by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Nityananda, even now I have some desire for honor. I think that I may attract others and win tremendous respect if I am seen weeping profusely and displaying ecstatic emotions. Babaji, you must endeavor to give this up. Otherwise, there is a serious danger that your bhakti will be eroded and that you will have to descend to the Kanishta platform again. Although the 6 enemies of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and illusion may have departed, the desire for honor remains. This desire for fame is the most pernicious enemy of the Vaishnavas, and it does not easily agree to leave the sadhak. Moreover, a single drop of genuine spiritual emotion is far superior to an imitative display of emotion. Chaya Bhav Abbas. Please give me your mercy, said Nityananda Das, and reverentially placed the dust from Haridas Babaji's lotus feet on his own head. At this, Babaji became unsettled. He quickly got up, embraced Nityananda Das, seated him by his side, and patted him on the back. How extraordinary is the effect of touching a Vaishnava. Tears immediately began to stream from Nityananda Das's eyes, and Haridas could not check his own tears, although he tried to do so. A wonderful atmosphere was manifest, and tears came to the eyes of all the assembled Vaishnavas at that moment. Nityananda Das accepted Sri Haridas in his heart as his guru, and his life became successful. Within a short time, the emotion subsided, and he inquired, what are the primary and secondary characteristics of a Kanishta Bhakta in regard to bhakti? So we'll stop there. But these are very individual considerations. We're getting an outline here. This book was written for the devotees of Bharatvash, the devotees of India. This was Bhaktivinoda Thakur's audience. There's a book, Shikshamrita. This was written for Westerners. This book has actually been compiled for the Indian population. So in Indian society, all of these stories are all about Indian circumstances, but we just have to customize it to our Western circumstances. Understand?
Can you tell again how this book is called?
Shikshamrita. Shikshamrita by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's the same size. I have a copy up there. I'll show you after. Jai Vedama ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. So let's come now to our chapter 8, page 181. We've read about Nityananda. He's inquiring as to his own personal adhikar. So we can consider also in this discussion, what is my adhikar? Try to relate with how Nityananda is responding to describing his own life and see how I am acting in my own life and on which platform am I on. And if I realize or if I think that I'm certainly on the Kanishta platform, then quickly come to the Madhyam platform. Quickly come to that devotional platform where we're seriously taking this path carefully. So Babaji is saying at the top of 181, the 2 primary characteristics of a Kanishta Vaishnava are his faith in the eternal form of Bhagavan and his worship of the deity. His secondary characteristic are the devotional activities that he performs, such as hearing, chanting, remembering, and offering prayers. So this is the Kanishta platform. Nityananda, one cannot be a Vaishnava unless he has faith in the eternal form of Bhagavan and worships the deity according to the regulations of Shastra. So I can well understand why these two are primary symptoms. However, I cannot understand why hearing, chanting, remembering, and other such activities are secondary. Good question. Okay? Babaji, the Kanishta Vaishnava is not acquainted with the intrinsic nature of Shuddha Bhakti. That's what I'm saying. If you don't set your compass, if you're not understanding what is pure bhakti, what is pure devotion, how can I actually make progress? I have to know what is Shuddha Bhakti, of which hearing, chanting, and so on are angas, limbs. Consequently, his hearing and chanting do not assume their primary identity, but are manifest as a gona secondary form, because he's not properly focusing. The Kanishta is not properly focusing on the direction where he's going. He's just worshipping the deity like a parrot, like a robot, automatically just 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, worshipping like that. There's no sambandha, no connection has actually happened with his Thakurji. Perhaps in an institutional environment, it's very difficult to develop a rapport with the deities because so many other people might be worshipping them. You don't think this is my deity, but we have to think this is my deity. If I'm going to perform real worship, I have to think, yes, this is my deity, and other people are serving him also. You understand? But unless I have that mamata for Thakurji, then where is my sambandha? He's not even there. Furthermore, whatever arises from the three gunas, sattva, goodness, raja, passion, and tama, ignorance, is known as gona. Yes. When these activities become nirgun, beyond the gunas, free from the influence of material modes, they are angas of Shuddha Bhakti, and one has attained the madhyam stage. Very beautiful. Quickly become freed from these gunas pushing us. That means controlling the mind, controlling the senses, not allowing these sensual attractions to carry us away. It requires deliberation. And certainly by chanting more, you're already doing that because you've restricted physically other activities that you might be doing. You're only sitting, you're only chanting. That has tremendous benefit. You're not looking here and there and cycling and walking and, oh, what's this? What do we have for dinner? What do we do for this? All this chit-chat just drags the mind away into another seeking material pleasure, because the mind is always looking for material pleasure. And the contradiction of that is the soul is not. So we have to connect with that. Nityananda Das, how can the Kanishta Vaishnava be called a bhakta when he is contaminated with the faults of karma and gyan, and his heart is filled with desires for things other than bhakti? Okay, we should consider this is us. Babaji, one becomes eligible for bhakti once he has attained shraddha. Everything is on the platform of shraddha, which is the root of bhakti. There is no doubt then that he is situated at the doorway of bhakti. What is the doorway of bhakti? Sharanagati. That is the doorway to bhakti. Sharanagati is about us. It's not about devotion to Krishna. It's about my attitude of submissiveness to Krishna. That's what Sharanagati. There's no mamata in there. There's no sambandha developed. The word shraddha means vishvas, belief. When the Kanishta Bhakta awakens belief in the divine deity, he becomes eligible for bhakti. What is this? The bhakti lata bij that Guru gives the jiva in the heart by his compassion. Krishna seva vasana, the desire to perform service to Krishna, and that gradually flourishes into a loving mood of loving service. This anukul prapti abhilas. Bhagavat prapti abhilas doesn't have that addition of the loving relationship. And then even more than anukul is sokhard abhilas. This is the friendship with Krishna. it develops again. This is the wonderment of this path. It's always increasing, it's always moving. It's never static, it's always ecstatic. Nityananda Das, when will he obtain bhakti? Babaji, the Kanishta Bhakta becomes a Shuddha Bhakta at the Madhyam level when his contamination of karma and gyan is dissipated and he desires nothing other than Ananya Bhakti, exclusive bhakti, exclusive devotion. At that point, he understands that there is a difference between service to guests and service to bhaktas. Thus, he awakens a taste for serving the bhaktas, which is favorable for bhakti. If we're always doing some type of charitable work or just preaching to non-devotees, this is wonderful, and this is part of our dharma, part of our path to do like that. But when you actually start speaking to devotees and encouraging devotees and serving devotees more focusedly, this is much, much more than just simply preaching on the street, so to speak. It's more than that. Nityananda Das, Shuddha Bhakti appears along with Sambandha Gyan. When is that knowledge awakened by which one becomes eligible for Shuddha Bhakti? Nice question. Babaji, true Sambandha Gyan and Shuddha Bhakti are manifest simultaneously when knowledge contaminated by Mayavad conceptions has been dispelled. This means not desiring my own sensual pleasures, but I'm looking to the satisfaction of Krishna's devotees, of my Guru, of Thakurji, in that order. How long does that take? Nityananda Das says. Babaji, the stronger a person's sukriti from past activities, the sooner he will attain it. Our previous sanskar and sukriti is very much tipping the balance here. If we've had previous births chanting Hare Krishna, of course it's going to give us a greater... We sometimes see, if we're living in a temple place, a new person comes, and somehow or other they're just like on a rocket from the very beginning. We should understand that this person from his previous birth has been performing bhakti. And sometimes there's a really old man there and nothing's really kicked off for him. So this is his first time around. But nevertheless, we're following the process. Nityananda, what is the first result attained by past sukriti? Babaji, one attains sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha, so beautiful. Sadhu sangha is the principle, Nityananda Das. And what is the progression that evolves from sadhu sangha? Babaji, Srimad Bhagavatam 3.25.25 describes the systematic evolution of bhakti very succinctly. This is spoken by Kapila Dev to his mother Devahuti. Satam prasangan mamazvira samvido bhavanti hritkana rasanaya gata taj josephat sav apavarga vartmani shraddha rati bhakti anukramishiti. Shraddha, rati, that's bhav, and bhakti, in this order. First shraddha, then rati, then Shuddha Bhakti. In the association of Shuddha Bhaktas, the recitation and discussion of my glorious activities and pastimes are pleasing to both the heart and the ears. By cultivating knowledge in this way, one becomes established on the path of liberation and progressively attains Shraddha, then Bhav, and finally Prema Bhakti. This is the process. The beautiful verse. Kriti Sadhya. No. Klesh Agni Shubhada. This is the path of sadhan. Klesh means suffering. Agni means incinerated. As we're performing our sadhan, these kleshas become incinerated. Klesh Agni Shubhada. And then what is the consequence? All auspiciousness will come in the devotee's life. We'll see that. Everything seems to turn out favorably. Every endeavor we make, it seems to be positive. There doesn't seem to be any great stumbling blocks. We easily get our ticket to come to India. We easily settle in. We're finding our prasadam, etc. Everything becomes very, very simple. This is Klesh Agni Shubhada. This is the mercy that comes from sadhan bhakti. And then the next stage is bhav bhakti, moksha lukhatakrit. This is when we start to look down on moksha. We don't think moksha is such a big deal. We don't think liberation is something that I desire. And this stage is described as sudulabha, very, very rare. It's rare that someone should disdain moksha. But we're in a whole society of people who are disdaining moksha. The Vaishnavas are all encouraged to go for Shuddha Bhakti. No one here is going for moksha. Those in the Himalayas or some retreat somewhere or other in the mountains, perhaps they're all looking for moksha, but we're not looking for moksha or liberation. And this is rare. We should consider. And then the third stage is prem itself. Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Sri Krishna Akashani Chasa. Oh, sorry, Sandra Ananda Visheshatma. Sandra Ananda. That's the most beautiful word. This Sandra Ananda. This means, Sandra means that nothing else can exist except Ananda. There's nothing else except Ananda. Nothing else can enter except bliss. Pretty nice, huh? Sandra Ananda. Then it says, Sri Krishna Akashani Chasa. This will attract Krishna. This prem will attract Krishna. So that's the stage of prem. So these are the three: sadhan bhakti, bhav bhakti, and prema bhakti. We'll publish this on the WhatsApp thread. Nityananda Das, how does one attain sadhu sangha? Babaji, I have already said that sadhu sangha is attained by sukriti acquired in previous births. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:51-53. Bharva pavago brahmato yada bhavaj janasya tarya achutya sat samagama sat sangamo yari tadaiva sad gato para varesh tvai jayate rati. O Achyuta, the jivas have been wandering in the cycle of birth and death since time without beginning. When the time for his release from this cycle approaches, he obtains Sat Sangha. From that moment, he becomes firmly attached to you, who are the controller of both spirit and matter, and the supreme goal of attainment for the sadhus. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. So merciful of Bhaktivinoda Thakur to give us these Bhagavatam verses. Nityananda Das, it is only by sadhu sangha that a Kanishta Bhakta awakens an inclination for worshipping the deity. So how can it be said that he doesn't render any service to sadhus? I don't understand that. I'll read it again. It is only by sadhu sangha that a Kanishta Bhakta awakens an inclination for worshipping the deity. So how can it be said that he doesn't render any service to sadhus? Okay, so he has to render service to sadhus just to begin. I think that's what it's saying.
He says that it's a sadhu that makes him to do deity worship. So by that, he's actually doing the service to the sadhus.
Yes. The sadhu is encouraging him to do the seva.
So by that, he's actually...
Yes, he's serving the sadhus. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Babaji, when one obtains sadhu sangha by good fortune, vishvasa, or belief in the divinity of the deity, awakens. Nevertheless, worship of the deity must be accompanied by service to the sadhus themselves. That was the difference. If the sadhu is neglected once you worship the deity, then this is not going to be progressive. Until this type of faith develops, one's shraddha is incomplete and one remains ineligible for ananya bhakti. Ananya bhakti means focused bhakti. Fully focused. Nityananda Das, what are the stages of progress for a Kanishta Bhakta? Babaji, suppose that Kanishta Bhakta worships the deity form of Bhagavan every day with faith, but is not free from the contaminations of karma, gyan, and extraneous desires. By chance, some guests come to him who happen to be bhaktas, and he welcomes and serves them, just as he would any other guests. The Kanishta Bhakta observes the activities and behavior of bhaktas and gets a chance to hear their discussions of spiritual topics based on the Shastra. In this way, he begins to develop great respect for the character of the bhaktas. This is the point. We should consider ourselves also as bhaktas. My Gurudev used to say all the time, don't consider yourself not a bhakta. Otherwise, what sort of guru am I if you're considering yourself not a bhakta? So consider yourself a bhakta and always act in an exemplary way with all people so that people will be attracted to the path of bhakti. We never know who somebody is. He might just be a milkman or a garland maker or a fruit waller or, someone. We don't know who these people are. We should always have exemplary behavior, and then they will respect the path of bhakti. At this point, he became aware of his own defects. He begins to follow the behavior of the sadhus and to rectify his own behavior. Yes, he starts to look internal when he sees the good qualities of the sadhus. Gradually, his defects of karma and gyan begin to fade, and as his heart becomes purified, he becomes increasingly free from extraneous desires. He studies the Shastra by regularly hearing narrations of Bhagavan's pastimes and the fundamental ontological truths about Bhagavan. Very important. His Sambandha Gyan becomes progressively firmer as he accepts the transcendental nature of Bhagavan, Sri Nam, and the angas of bhakti, such as hearing and chanting. When his Sambandha Gyan becomes complete, he attains the stage of a Madhyam Vaishnava. It is at this point that he truly begins to associate with bhaktas. He can then perceive that bhaktas are vastly superior to ordinary guests, and he can begin to regard them on the level of guru. This is very important, to regard the bhaktas on the level of guru, which means I want to take instruction and guidance from all bhaktas. All sincere madhyams should be in a mood of distributing their truths, because he's on the madhyam platform. He can preach on the madhyam. In some cases, eligibility neither where was I up to? Where? Why is it that many Kanishta Bhaktas do not progress? Babaji, if the Kanishta Bhakta associates mainly with people who are inimical, his immature level of eligibility for bhakti quickly fades, and his eligibility for karma and gyan becomes prominent. In some cases, eligibility neither increases nor decreases, but remains exactly the same. In other words, if we don't seek seriously, enthusiastically, good association, we'll just remain with those who are also Kanishtas and not progressing. We're not going to move ahead in that type of association. We have to be hungry. And if you're hungry for that association, Krishna will arrange. That's his job. And he will arrange. He hears our heart cry for sadhu sangha. And he will arrange. And even if we're living far away like Finland, Sweden, those places, you still have internet these days. So even though this is the age of Kali, this technology is remarkable. Here I am speaking with so many people around the world, just sitting in Godram, that they can take some nourishment from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Jaiva-dhamma. So anywhere, we can always connect with a sadhu. There's no excuse. There's never any excuse for any shortfall in spiritual life. We can never say, well, Krishna didn't provide this or this or this. That's called the victim complex. Don't.
Exactly the same.
Huh?
It's not exactly the same.
We take the best we can. No, it's not exactly the same. Definitely it's not exactly the same, but what can we do? We're in the middle of Kali Yuga. The darkest Kali Yuga out of 1,000 Kali Yugas. And yet we have this little ray of light, even if it's a small ray of light, it'll be enough to keep that fire alive and moving. It'll be sufficient. We can't complain and we can't say, have excuses. It's like if we say, well, it's not enough, nothing's enough. Even if you're in the company about it, you say, well, I don't like that one, I like this one, and blah, 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 blah. All Grammy guitar starts to go on. So sometimes it can be very beneficial just to hear directly on a YouTube thing or whatever, It's not the best, no. It's not the best for the speaker either. I'm only looking at 4 people in the room today, but there's maybe 150, 200 on the stream, but I'm not seeing them all. Okay, Nityananda Das. When does that happen? When he associates equally with bhaktas and inimical people. I'll read the last part again. In some cases, eligibility neither increases nor decreases, but remains exactly the same. Okay, you're not moving anywhere. Nityananda Das, he asks, when does that happen? Babaji, when he associates equally with bhaktas and inimical people. You're not going to be moving very fast. Nityananda Das, under what circumstances can his advancement be assured? Babaji, when his association with bhaktas becomes prominent and his association with the inimical becomes minimal, his advancement is rapid. If you're sitting in your family home and you're always making considerations about your brother, your mother, your sister, all these different people in your family life, that is associating with non-devotees. So,
What does this mean, this inimical?
It means not favorable. Not favorable for the transcendental journey. It means they want to convince you to actually remain paka in the material world, to remain healthy in your job, in your allegiance to making money, economic development, dharma, artha, karma, moksha. That's what they want, to make you suffer like they're suffering. But the bhakta wants to get out of that association, not healthy. When his association with bhaktas becomes prominent and his association with inimical becomes minimal, his advancement is rapid. Nityananda Das, what is the nature of the Kanishta Adhikar's inclination towards sinful and pious activities? Babaji, in the preliminary stage, his inclination for sinful and pious activities will be like that of the karmis and jnanis. But as he progresses in bhakti, these propensities will be dispelled, and his inclination to please Bhagavan will become prominent. Nityananda, dear Master, I have understood the situation of Kanishta Adhikaris. Now kindly describe the primary symptoms of the Madhyam Adhikari Bhaktas. We'll discuss this tomorrow. Okay. Chapter 8, Ki Jai. Fascinating. Fascinating. He spent a lot of time describing the Kanishta and how to come out of that. So Jai Vedama, Ki Jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. Okay, we come to page 185 now in chapter 8. So Nityananda is saying about the nature of the Kanishta Adhikari's inclination towards sinful and pious activities. And then Babaji responded, in the preliminary stage, his inclination for sinful and pious activities will be like that of the karmis and the jnanis. But as he progresses in bhakti, these propensities will be dispelled, and his inclination to please Bhagavan will become prominent. Now he's introducing the mood of what is it to be a madhyam. A madhyam just wants to please Krishna with his whole being, his mind, his body, intelligence, everything, his words. Nityananda Das, dear Master, I have understood the situation of Kanishta Adhikaris. Now kindly describe the primary symptoms of the Madhyam Adhikari Bhaktas. Babaji, the Madhyam Adhikari Bhakta has Ananya Bhakti towards Krishna. That's a very high stage of bhakti, of devotion towards Krishna. Exclusive. Ananya means exclusive. That means I'm not looking for a little bit of Ganeshji on the side, or Durgama, a little bit of that influence, or a little bit of Suryadev. I've only understood that Krishna is that supreme personality of Godhead. I'm without any duplicitousness as far as my focus is concerned. One focused on serving. I might not be able to serve Krishna all the time, but my only focus and hope and prayer is to serve Krishna all the time. I'm not looking for liberation, in other words. I'm not looking for any satisfaction in this world, this material world. This material world is dull, dead, and the pleasure in this material world is called Jad Anand. Jad means dull, the dull pleasure of matter. It will not satisfy the spirit soul. You will never be happy if you try to find satisfaction in the material world. Always you will be restless, but only that restless mind will cease when we make connection with the supreme transcendental reality. And it's very, very easy to actually get on this journey, but it's not always so easy to stay on the journey. We need to stay enthusiastic towards the goal. We have to be very clear what is the goal. The Madhyam Bhakta has Ananya Bhakti towards Krishna. His friendship with the Bhaktas consists of 4 attitudes. He considers Bhaktas to be more dear than his very self, Atma Buddhi. He's always hungry for sadhu sangha. He's always hungry to be in the association of those great souls who have understood what is devotion to Krishna. I only want to be with those, because if I'm not with those people, who am I with? Those who are devoted to matter and looking for pleasure from matter. He feels great possessiveness towards them, mamata buddhi. He considers bhaktas as worshipable, ijya buddhi, and he considers them to be a place of pilgrimage, tirtha buddhi. The Madhyam Bhakta also bestows mercy on those who are ignorant of spiritual truth, and he neglects the inimical. These are the primary characteristics of the Madhyam Bhakta. Okay? It's quite clear. When one develops Sambandha Gyan and practices Bhakti Sadhan, which is the means, Abhideya, one attains the goal of Prem, Prayojan. This is the methodology of the Madhyam Bhakta. It is generally observed that Madhyam Bhaktas perform Harinam, Kirtan, and other such activities in the association of Bhaktas, free from offense. We have to be very careful about what is Shuddhanam. Shuddhanam is not Nam Aparad or Nam Abbas. We'll discuss these in depth in chapter 23, 24, and 25. What is Nam Bhajan? This is very important to understand. But at this stage, we should understand what are the 10 offenses in the chanting of the holy name. And the first offense is to blaspheme those devotees. If we even hear of blasphemy, we should immediately leave that place. We have no tolerance for all of the devotees are all practicing. Everyone's like in a hospital, so to speak. We're all doing our best we can. And sometimes many anarthas are coming out. And a devotee's behavior might be a little obnoxious sometimes, disturbing sometimes. But always pray for the welfare of that devotee. If we try and point the finger, what does Srila Prabhupada say? There's 3 more pointing back at me. If I'm pointing like that, there's 3 pointing at me. I am the offender. Don't criticize devotees at all. Nityananda Das. What are the secondary symptoms of the Madhyam Bhakta? Madhyam Bhakta. Babaji. The secondary symptom of the Madhyam Bhakta is the way in which he lives his life. His life is completely surrendered to the will of Krishna and is favorable to bhakti. He has no other consideration except the progress of his bhakti. He's trying to build a circumstance where his bhakti can progress daily, vigorously, quickly. He's trying to make that. If that's our desire, Krishna will give us the intelligence how to have that situation don't doubt. But if we have other little desires on the back fringes, oh, I actually want a nice big house with a nice big garden and this and this and this, then this is not Shuddha Bhakti. This is not focusing on Ananya Bhakti. There's other thoughts there. Nityananda Das. Can he still commit sins or offenses? Babaji. Some tendency to commit sins or offenses may remain in the beginning stage, but gradually these will disappear. Whatever sins or offenses are still present at the beginning of the Madhyam stage are like chickpeas that are just about to be ground to a pulp. They are still seen in small lumps, but within a few moments they will be crushed and will cease to exist. Yukta Vairagya, appropriate renunciation, is the life and soul of the Madhyam Bhakta. What does Yukta Vairagya mean? That means appropriate. That means I am renouncing according to the necessities of my bhakti. For example, in wintertime, if there doesn't happen to be hot water around, and I'm living in the Holy Dham, am I going to go to another place just so I can get hot water, to Calcutta, just so I can get hot water in the wintertime? This will be an extra endeavor. So I will take that tapasya. There's three types of vairagya. There's market vairagya, which is like the monkeys. The monkeys look like they're renounced, jumping from tree to tree. They have no clothes, they have no baggage, no bank balance, no cell phone, no nothing. They're just bouncing around, but they have so many wives. They indulge in this propensity all the time. That's market vairagya. That is monkey vairagya. Then there's Falgu vairagya. There's a river Falgu which actually runs under the ground. It's not like a real river. So that Falgu vairagya is false renunciation. I'm renouncing these different things, but in my heart, I'm still hoping that I will get some remuneration for my renunciation, that some benefits will come back to me. Because I'm renouncing, then I've got to get the benefits. I've still got my hand out as an order supplier to Krishna. I'm not seeing Krishna as my most beloved objective to perform seva to. And then there's Yukta Vairagya, where I'm using everything in my possession. If you're born in a very wealthy family, then use those resources to print books or to propagate temple worship or to support Takoji in any way or to have a food for life distribution if you've got wealth. And if you haven't got wealth, then just give your seva to there. But whatever we have in our possession, we will use for Krishna. Like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, there's photographs of him driving in a motor car. This was very strange back in that time, in the early 1800s. There were not many motor cars, but Bhaktisiddhanta was driving it because he had a program and it was the easiest, best way to go, the quickest way rather than bullock cart. So he utilized it. That's called Yukta Vairagya. We utilize whatever we have in our possession to serve Krishna. And we're not concerned if we don't have those possessions. Krishna will supply everything. Ananyas chintayantoma yejana pariparsate. Krishna gives what we lack and he carries what we need. Always. He will supply everything for us. Appropriate renunciation is the life and soul of the Madhyam Bhakta. Nityananda Das. Does the Madhyam Bhakta have any trace of karma, gyan, or extraneous desires? Babaji. In the initial stages, a faint trace of these things may remain, but finally they are uprooted. Understand, these distinctions, these stages aren't black and white. It's not one day I'm in a box of a kanishta, the next day I'm in a box of them. Everything is in flux. It's moving gradually. It's moving forward. It's evolving. It's like Shraddha. You can never say, yes, I passed the stage of Shraddha. We're always increasing our Shraddha. In any stage, we can never say, yes, I've become Sharanagat. It's always in motion, in practice. It's moving. It's evolving. Like Prem itself is evolving. Everything is in motion. So these stages, we are in process of coming to these stages, of moving through these stages. It's not just black and white. So therefore he's saying in the initial stages, a faint trace of these things may remain. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada used to give the analogy of a fan. You pull the plug out, but the fan keeps on rolling for some time. So these deficiencies will still be there for some time until they actually stop completely. Whatever vestiges of karma and gyan remain in the beginning of the madhyam stage occasionally make themselves visible, yet these gradually fade into oblivion. Because the principal acquisition, we can say, what the madhyam has achieved is focus and attention on Krishna. The Kanishta is very unwavering there. His whole focus is restless, it's uncertain. But the Madhyam, he's become fixed on his focus. Understand? Do such bhaktas even desire to live? And if so, why? I got it. Oh, right. So let me just understand this question. Whatever vestiges of karma and gyan remain in the beginning of the madhyam stage occasionally make themselves visible, yet these gradually fade into oblivion. Then Nityananda asked, do such bhaktas even desire to live, and if so, why? If they reach such a stage of love to Krishna, then perhaps they want to give up their material life completely. They have no more desire for material activity at all. That's his question. Babaji, actually they have no desire to live or die or to attain liberation. That's the completely liberated platform. They desire to live only to attain consummation of their bhajan. So the bhakta is always considering that his bhajan is not sufficient. The bhakta never thinks, oh yes, I have good bhajan. If anyone thinks like that or says like that, you know they don't know anything. We are always trying to improve our bhajan. It's never going to be good enough. Even when we leave the body, it's never, because without that mood of enthusiasm or greed, then there can be no, you have to have greed for something. There has to be an object that you're greedy for. But if you don't have greed, if you think, yes, I've accomplished everything, I can sit back now, yes, I can enjoy the material atmosphere, then this is far away from bhakti. Far, far away. Always that mood of utsaha, enthusiasm. Nischaya, what's that? Utsaha, nischaya, darya. This in the Upadeshamrita. And this mood of greed is the quality for Raganuga Bhakti. If we're not feeling enthusiastic, we can't even begin this path of Ragmarg. If there's any little drop of complacency there, that I think I've done enough. Oh, I've chanted enough, I've read enough today, so then I'll just go on YouTube. What is that? No. Then one hasn't really chanted. One hasn't really read sufficiently. Were the gopis ever complacent? Ever? They were fraught with anxiety of how they could satisfy Krishna's calm, Krishna's mood of wanting to enjoy them. And they were wanting to give him that pleasure. This was completely reciprocal. Krishna wants the gopis to be happy, and the gopis want Krishna to be happy. And they're constantly trying to increase each other's happiness. That's the mood of a devotee. That mood of ananda, bliss, is without limit. I said before, anandam buddhi vardhanam. In the Shikshastikam, it's saying like that. It's unlimited. But if we think, well, I've had enough, then this is not the path. But why don't they long for death? What happiness can come from remaining in this gross material body? When they die, will they not obtain their spiritual forms and identities by Krishna's mercy? Good question. Good question. See how Bhaktivinoda Thakur answers. Babaji, they have no independent desires. What can you give Guru the most? You can give him your independence. That's what you can give up to Guru. That's what you can give the most. That's the most sacred. That's where we always go wrong, when we hold on to this independent spirit of wanting to enjoy matter. But if I give my independence to Guru fully, then that whole enjoying mood is just evaporated, annihilated, crushed. So it's not my body to, like when Mahaprabhu, Sanatan Goswami, wanted to give up his body under the chariot wheel of the Rath Yatra. And what did Mahaprabhu say? You've given me your body? He was saying in front of Haridas, look, this person, he's given me his body, now he's trying to take it back again. What sort of gentleman is he? He's a thief. But why don't they long for death? What happiness can come from remaining in this gross material body? When they die, will they not attain their spiritual forms and identities by Krishna's mercy? Babaji, they have no independent desires. All their desires are solely dependent on Krishna's will, because they are firmly convinced that everything is happening by his will, and that whatever happens is only because of his desire. So either way, they have therefore no need to aspire for anything independently. And what he's assuming, just because you give up your body, will you necessarily attain a spiritual form? Rubbish. This is like a desire for liberation. Actually, it's not a desire to move to the spiritual realm. We don't have enough time in this birth to read all the instructions carefully of Srila Rupa Goswami, delineating the path to the spiritual world, or Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vera can confirm this. I sent him so much stuff today. Will he have time to read it all, absorb it? At least a week or 2 or 3 to actually at least just peripherally read it all. What to speak of begin to make headway into appreciating it. These topics are so dense. We need every moment of these lives and to be as healthy as possible so that we can maintain our study and our careful bhajan to the limit of our degree. Nityananda Das, I have understood the symptoms of the Madhyam Adhikari. Now please tell me about the secondary symptoms of the Uttam Adhikari. The principal symptom is this greed of this Madhyam to please Krishna. That means I have to give up my own independent desires. I only want to follow him. Sarvo Padivya Niyamruktam Tatparadbena Nirmalam. I only want to please him, like Anya Bilasita Shunyam. The same principle is there. These secondary symptoms are their bodily activities, but even these cannot actually be viewed separately as secondary symptoms, because they are so much under the control of prem, which is beyond all influence of the material modes. If we actually come into that atmosphere of prem, then we are under another direction. There's another force, so to speak. The force of Yogamaya begins to direct my activities in this world. They're all being guided by her rather than Mahamaya previously. The Madhyam has now come under the control of Yogamaya. The Kanishta is still under the control of Mahamaya. This is the distinction. And my Gurudev said constantly, we have to quickly come to the Madhyam platform. Quickly come to this platform of solid faith. Shraddha Shabde Vishvasa Koi Sudrita Nishchoy. This faith with confidence must come quickly. Nityananda Das, Prabhu, there is no provision in Shastra for the Kanishta Adhikaris to renounce householder life. and Madhyam Adhikaris may live either as householders or renunciants. Is it possible that some Uttam Adhikaris may live as householders? Nice question. Babaji, one's level of eligibility cannot be determined by whether one is a householder or a renunciant. That's not the path of bhakti. You can have bhakti in the householder life and you can have bhakti in the renounced life. The two are not distinct when you're considering from the point of view of bhakti. The only criterion for one's advancement is bhakti. The only criterion is one's advancement in bhakti. That's what I just said. There is certainly no harm if an Uttam Adhikari Bhakta remains a householder, just like himself, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, complete Uttam Adhikari, living with 10 kids and all their husbands and wives and children, etc. All the Grihastha Bhaktas of Braj were Uttam Adhikaris. Many Grihastha Bhaktas of our Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were Uttam Adhikaris. Rai Ramananda is the foremost example of this. So it's not about ashram, it's about bhakti. Clearly, what is the degree of your devotion? Only your devotion. Because if we're thinking it's about my ashram, this means I'm thinking there's an external demonstration of my devotion necessary in the world. Oh, I've got to be in the renounced order of life, so everyone thinks I'm a renunciant. Or I've got to be in family life, and then I'll be able to do whatever I want in family life. It's nothing to do with the external world at all. And the ashrams are about the external designation. Whether you're a brahmachari, a grihastha, a vanaprastha, or a sannyasi, these are all external considerations. What was the first proposition that Rai Ramananda put to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Rai Ramananda Samvad? He put Varnashram system. Mahaprabhu said, this is external. Go on. Aibai, go on. This wasn't considered even beginning to be bhakti. Nityananda Das. Prabhu, if an Uttam Adhikari Bhakta is a Grihastha and a Madhyam Adhikari is in the renounced order, how should they behave towards each other? This is nice. Babaji, the person who is less qualified should offer Dandavat Pranams to the person who is more qualified. This stipulation is only for the benefit of the Madhyam Adhikari, because the Uttam Adhikari Bhakta does not expect respect from anyone. In all living beings, he sees the presence of Bhagavan. An Uttam Adhikari is on a whole nother level. He's seeing like the example of Jagannath Das Babaji. All the puppies would come and eat off his plate. He saw them all as servants of Krishna, even in the body of puppy dogs. And his followers would try and remove them, but he would count their heads because his eyes were practically blind. And he'd see one was missing, and he'd know that his sevaks had taken one puppy away. They were trying, and he wouldn't eat anything until he brought them back. So this is an example of an Uttam Adhikari. But if you try and imitate this, it's like trying to drink the poison from the churning of the ocean of milk, like Lord Shivji could. Are we qualified for that? No. There was a time in Sankaracharya's life when he was walking through the villages, and one Sudra lady came and offered him a sweetmeat, a sweet, while he was with his sannyasis. So Sankaracharya, he looked at the sweet and he put it in his mouth. And then he looked at all the sannyasis and he could hear what they were thinking. Oh, we can accept sweets from anybody's hand and just take them like that. They were thinking like that because Sankaracharya was making an example. But then what happened? He walked a little bit further and he came to a blacksmith forge. The blacksmith was melting lead in a small cup, right, to make a mold. So he requested, oh, can I have that cup of hot lead? He took that cup of hot lead and drank it. And then he offered it to his sannyasi disciples. You want some of this? Try to understand. Don't imitate. Don't imitate. And not imitating brings the greatest joy when we are honest and truthful to ourselves. The last chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's talked about paradam. And what is your swadam? Paradam means somebody else's dharma. Arjuna was trying to act like a mendicant, like a renunciate. That's not his dharma. His dharma was kshatriya. So you should act according to your dharma and your propensity. This is called swadharma, your own dharma. Don't try and imitate, ever. Where are we up to? The person who is less qualified should offer dandavat pranams to the person who is more qualified. This stipulation is only for the benefit of the Madhyam Adhikari, because the Uttam Adhikari Bhakta does not expect respect from anyone. In all living beings, he sees the presence of Bhagavan. Why is Bhaktivinoda Thakur telling us these different distinctions? It's so that we can respect and follow the Vaishnava culture. This spiritual culture is a culture of love. And having love means you properly understand how to respect all the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas are the most important part of our lives, in our relationships with them, in dealing with them properly. We should understand what level each Vaishnava is on. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going through it very carefully, so we don't commit offenses. I just already described what is the first offense to the holy name: to blaspheme the Vaishnavas. So if we're slack about this, if we're not clear about this, we will commit offenses, and the potency of the holy name won't manifest in our consciousnesses. Should one bring many Vaishnavas together and hold festivals for distributing Bhagavat Prasad? Okay? Babaji, from the spiritual point of view, there is no objection if many Vaishnavas gather together for some particular occasion and a Madhyam Adhikari Grihastha Bhakta wants to honor them by distributing the Bhagavat Prasad. However, it is not good to make a pompous display of serving the Vaishnavas, for then this activity will become adulterated with the mode of passion. One should distribute prasad to the assembly of Vaishnavas with great care and attention. This is one's duty. If one wishes to serve the Vaishnavas in this way, he should only invite pure Vaishnavas. So it's not for party time. Let's have a pizza party and all the devotees get together to enjoy their senses. I said the other day, very seriously, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has said, when the enjoying spirit is up, is high, know that humility is far away. And if humility is far away, there can be no bhakti. No bhakti. Because what is there instead of humility? It's pride. And what is synonymous with pride? Remember? Envy. Envy. Envy and pride are the same. It means I'm actually envious of the Supreme Lord's pleasure. And this is why we came into the whole material world. We wanted to be the enjoyers, this bhakta. But I am an enjoyer by nature, if I'm serving Krishna. But if I'm not serving Krishna, I'll be serving Maya Devi. This is the difficulty, because we have that propensity to be enjoyers. Krishna wouldn't want to have our company if we didn't know how to be happy. If we're all glum and miserable, Krishna's not going to be interested in coming and hanging around us. If I'm just feeling sorry for myself, that's not going to make Krishna enlivened. But if I'm very satisfied and happy and everything, then Krishna will come. There's actually a beautiful verse here. I don't remember it always. Sokam sadbir pavaya akrantam yasya manasam kartam tatra mukundasya spurti sambhavama bhavana bhavet. Translation: how can Sri Mukunda ever be manifest to a person whose heart is invaded by lamentation, anger, and other agitations? It's invaded by these things. How can Krishna be attracted to that? We're talking about Harinam with the devotees. Nityananda Das. A new caste has emerged in Baragachi, consisting of people who refer to themselves as descendants of Vaishnavas. Kanishta Adhikari householders invite them and feed them in the name of Vaishnava Seva. How is this to be viewed? You're just asking so many Kanishtas to come in the name of Vaishnava Seva. Babaji, have these descendants of Vaishnavas taken up Shuddha Bhakti? Nityananda Das, I don't see Shuddha Bhakti in any of them. They only call themselves Vaishnavas. Some of them wear kopin, loincloths. Babaji, I cannot say why this type of practice is in vogue. It should not be done. I can only surmise that is going on because Kanishta Vaishnavas have no ability to recognize who is a true Vaishnava. This is the whole purpose of this discussion, so that we understand who is a true Vaishnava and we learn to respect those. Nityananda Das, do the descendants of Vaishnavas deserve any special regard? Babaji, honor is due for those who are actually Vaishnavas. If the descendants of Vaishnavas are pure Vaishnavas, they should be honored in proportion to their advancement in bhakti. It's always come down to that line. It's not about caste, not about Brahman, Kshatriya, etc. It's about bhakti, advancement in bhakti. Nityananda Das, what if the descendant of a Vaishnava is only a worldly man? Babaji, then he should be considered as a worldly man and not as a Vaishnava. He should not be honored as a Vaishnava. One should always remember the instruction given by Sri Man Mahaprabhu's Shikshastika, Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarodapi Suhishana, Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sarahari. One should chant the holy name in a humble state of mind, thinking himself more insignificant than the straw in the street. He's in a humble state of mind when he doesn't have any material desires. That automatically makes him humble. If you have no material desires, you become humble. Straw in the street. And more tolerant than a tree. Tree is so tolerant, it'll take any amount of punishment, it seems. One should be devoid of a sense of false prestige and ready to offer all respects to others. Amanina Manadena. In such a state of mind, one can chant Sri Harinam constantly. One should be free from pride and should offer appropriate respect to others. One should offer Vaishnavas the respect due to a Vaishnava and should offer those who are not Vaishnavas the respect that befits any human being. It's not that you disregard those who are not devotees. We see the father and uncle of Raghunath Das. They're called Praya Vaishnavas. They would support financially so many Vaishnavas, but they themselves were not practicing so much the rules and regulations to the same degree that Vaishnavas will embrace those. The Vaishnavas embrace those rules and regulations because they know it pleases Krishna. They know they don't want to disgrace the Vaishnava order. If the Vaishnavas are transgressing the injunctions of Shastra, then this is very unfortunate for them and the reputation of Vaishnavas. If one does not offer respect to them, he does not acquire the necessary qualification to chant Sri Nam. Nityananda Das, how can one be free from pride? Babaji, one should not proudly think, I am a Brahmin, I am wealthy, I am a learned scholar, I am a Vaishnava, I have renounced family life. People may well offer respect because one has such qualities, but one should not want to be honored by others out of such egoistic pride. One should always think oneself to be worthless, insignificant, destitute, and lower than a blade of grass. We see in the very beginning the Uttam Bhagavat, Prem Das Babaji, when Sannyasi Thakur approaches him. And what does the Uttam Bhagavat do to the Brahmavad or the Brahmagyani sannyasi? He immediately offers respects to him. He immediately offers his prostrated respects to him. Nityananda Das, it seems from this that one cannot be a Vaishnava without humility and compassion. Babaji, that is quite true. Nityananda Das, then does Bhakti Devi depend on humility and compassion? Babaji, no. Bhakti is completely independent. What's that? Bhaktiya Sanjataye Bhaktya. Bhakti is completely independent. This is what Madhurya Kadambini is all about in the first chapter. Bhakti is the personification of beauty, and she is the supreme ornament. She does not depend on any other good quality. Humility and compassion are not separate qualities. They are included within bhakti. They are included within bhakti. I am a servant of Krishna. I am destitute. I have nothing. Krishna is my all in all. The bhakti that is expressed in these attitudes is itself humility, dainya. The tenderness of heart experienced towards Krishna is known as bhakti. All other jivas are servants of Krishna, and tenderness of heart towards them is compassion, dvaya. Therefore, compassion is included within bhakti. If one's heart is melting in attraction to Krishna, he naturally feels affection to all living entities because he sees Krishna within the heart of all living entities. And he wants to please Krishna by at least being respectful to all living entities. It's absolute respect is a quality of love. It's hard for us to love, but we have the 6 symptoms. Tadati pragnati guyam, akyati prachati, bhungte pujayate, sadvidim, what's it? The last line. Lakshman, yes. These 6 symptoms of love between the devotees should be cultivated for the purpose of melting the heart in bhakti, in devotion. Shama, forgiveness, is the bhav situated between humility and compassion. Beautiful. Did you know that? Shama is the bhav situated between humility and compassion. When I am so wretched and insignificant myself, how can I inflict punishment upon others? How can I criticize others? When this attitude is combined with compassion, forgiveness automatically appears. Forgiveness is also included in bhakti. So these qualities are not extraneous qualities. They're not something we have to work on. These qualities are already there. Once bhakti becomes developed and is moving, then these qualities will automatically come. Krishna is Satya, real. The fact that the jivas are servants of Krishna is also real, as is the fact that the material world is only a boarding house for the jivas. This means that bhakti is also real, because these truths are based on the jiva's relationship with Krishna, which is itself bhakti. Truth, humility, compassion, and forgiveness are 4 special qualities that are included in bhakti. Nityananda Das, how should a Vaishnava behave towards followers of other religions? The instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narayana Kalo Shanta Bhajanti Hi Anusyuvaha. Those who are free from the propensity to slander others and who are fully peaceful worship Sri Narayan and his plenary portions. I'm not going to rush through this, so there's another page we'll complete tomorrow, and otherwise I'll just be rushing through. And these truths are too profound and deep just to go over quickly. Every sentence almost is like gold. Really it is. Bhaktivinoda Thakur just is pumping out benedictions to the jivas. And if we can catch it, if we can pick it up, then it's our greatest wealth and auspiciousness for us. So Jai Vedama ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Gaur Premanande. So now we come to page 191. Actually, I want to read again the 2 paragraphs that we read on page 190. If you remember, yesterday you weren't here. You were in Eka Chakra, to your great fortune.
But we heard it today.
Huh?
But we heard it today.
I can't hear you.
We heard it today.
Oh, you heard. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So now I read these 2 paragraphs and I wasn't quite sure of the meaning, but I think I understand it now. The tenderness of heart experienced towards Krishna is known as bhakti. Bhakti means devotion. When my devotion is pure, the heart naturally will soften in devotion, in affection, in love, in attraction, without fear. It'll naturally just embrace the Lord in the heart. That is Shuddha Bhakti. All other jivas are servants of Krishna, and tenderness of heart towards them is compassion. Daya. This is the topic of these two paragraphs. Therefore, compassion is included within bhakti. Why? Because compassion means that there's you and the object of your compassion. There's two. It's not just one. I am feeling compassion towards the fallen conditioned soul. So there's two. So that I is going to be represented or talked about as humility. We'll read the next paragraph. Shama, forgiveness, is the bhav situated between humility and compassion. So humility is like a quality that the sadhak will imbibe, and compassion is the quality that he's giving. And forgiveness is that place in the middle where he's able to forgive the conditioned soul's wayward nature and also forgive his own wayward nature. So forgiveness falls in the middle. It's very amazing. I'll read it again. Shama, forgiveness is the bhav situated between humility. Humility is like the I consciousness, because there has to be someone who is humble, right? That's you. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the sadhak attaining a humble state of mind, humility. And then we're talking about the sadhak expressing that humility through a mood of compassion. But how can he be compassionate without that quality or that bhav of forgiveness? So this bhav of forgiveness rides in the middle between the two. That's what it's saying. Forgiveness is the bhav situated between humility and compassion. When I am so wretched and insignificant myself, how can I inflict punishment on others? When I'm understanding my true nature of my utter insignificance in relationship to my devotion to Krishna, always the bhakta is thinking like that. Narahari Shakahi sang this beautiful song, this Jadi Gauranga, and at the end he concludes, this Narahari has no heart, has a heart like a stone. He's a great, great devotee, but he's feeling himself to be totally worthless. Just, you can't reach it. This book here, top one. Quickly. No, next. Yes. Give me that. Quick. So, I'll just give you an example of humility here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's saying on verse 205 in chapter 5, the chapter about Nityananda Prabhu, he's saying, I am more sinful than Jagai and Madai. Krishnadas Kaviraj has written Govinda Lilamrita with the most beautiful, exquisite descriptions of Radha and Krishna's eightfold pastimes during the day. This is Govinda Lilamrita, written by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj. He's written this whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, yet he thinks that he is more sinful than Jagai and Madai, and even lower than the worms in stool. This is how he's feeling. This is genuine. This is not deceptive or false humility. He's feeling like this. Then he says in verse 206, anyone who hears my name loses the results of his pious activities. Anyone who utters my name becomes sinful. Why are they saying like this? Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, I've said this before, this example. He gives a wonderful example that if you come to the shore of the material ocean, the seaside, you come to the shore of the sea, you naturally feel humbled by the power of the waves and the vastness of the ocean. It makes you feel naturally humble, right? You have to feel that experience. This is how Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj explains it. What to speak of that sadhak who comes to the shore of the transcendental ocean? He's feeling utterly destitute. He's feeling utterly, because he's seeing the potency of the spiritual realm. And when you see the potency of the spiritual realm, you naturally feel your own utter insignificance in comparison to that. And this is very, very helpful in our bhakti to have that mood of abject humility. Abject means complete humility. We have this beautiful verse, Trinada Pish. We've just said it in the Jaiva Dharma. This, and it's stated by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj, this should be made in a locket around our necks, because we forget in a moment. This insidious pride, it just creeps in out of nowhere. When we least expect it, someone suddenly treads on our toe. Oh, me, what about me? What have you done for me? And just immediately, it just springs up. We didn't even know it was there. And it just inflames itself. That pride has to be sighted and purified. It will be purified when our attraction to the Vrindavan pastimes and Radha and Krishna becomes so strong that nothing can come in between us and our object of devotion. This is bhakti. This is the tenderness of heart that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is talking about here. He talked at the beginning of this paragraph, tenderness of heart. So bhakti is full of charm. It's full of sweetness. It's soft. It's fragrant. This is the quality of bhakti, of Shuddha bhakti. It has no deficiency. And who is the most humble out of all the different personalities in existence? Srimati Radhika. Srimati Radhika, she is the Shakti of Brajendranandan Shyam Sundar. She's the Shakti of Krishna. Nothing manifests anywhere except through Swarup Shakti. Even Baladev Prabhu, he's the first manifestation of Krishna. But where is that manifestation coming from? It's coming through Swarup Shakti. Swarup Shakti manifests all the worlds. This Sat Chit Ananda, it's all all Shakti. Sat Chit Ananda is Shakti. The Sandini Shakti, the Sangvit Shakti, the Kladini Shakti, it's all manifesting from originally Shakti. Radharani, she manifests from the left-hand side of Krishna. And as soon as she sees Krishna, she runs towards him to embrace him. That is her mood. That is her attraction. Krishna is manifesting his Swarup. Krishna is Rup, he's the form, and Radharani is the Swarup. That's his own, they're non-different. And they've appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Radha Krishna, Pranaya, Vikritya, Ladini, Shakti, Asmat, Ekatmanav. Api Bhuvu, Deha Bedam Tatoto. This verse is saying, this is the fifth verse in first Adi Lila chapter 1 of Chaitanya Charitamrita. This verse is actually written by Swarup Damodar. And the next verse also, Shiradaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrisho Vanaiva. This is also written by Swarup Damodar. And the fourth verse is written by Rupa Goswami, Anapita Chirim Chirat. And Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is quoting these verses. He's giving these personalities prominence to make us become dedicated to these personalities. Without this type of association, because from Chaitanya Charitamrita, we're getting that association. We're getting the association of Rupa Goswami. We're getting the association of Swarup Damodar. When Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is writing this Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's listening to Raghunath Das Goswami is speaking, but Raghunath Das was in the association of Swarup Damodar for 14 years in Puri. And these kadachas, they're called, these notebooks of Swarup Damodar, yes, where are they? They're in his throat. They're kept in the throat of Swarup Damodar, and they're inspired into the heart of Raghunath Das Goswami. He is speaking these notes in the ear of Raghunath Das Goswami, who is speaking them to Krishnadas Kaviraj. So this is the line. Everything has to be bona fide, authentic line. Where is its source? Where is it coming from? Like our Guru Parampara. We want to see where everything is coming from. If it's not there clearly, if the line isn't clearly described, then perhaps sit back from whatever someone is saying if there's not a line. It's all coming originally from Krishna, from Krishna's flute song. So, Shama, forgiveness, is the bhav situated between humility and compassion. When I am so wretched and insignificant myself, how can I inflict punishment on others? If Krishnadas Kaviraj is feeling like he's just described, how can he possibly try to be harsh with other people? You don't have that. But you are defensive if someone is criticizing the Vaishnavas in front of you. Like Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj tells his own story just before those comments of when he was with Minikatan Ram in his household. Minikatan Ram is a great bhakta follower of Nityananda Prabhu. He would carry a flute and he would hit people with the flute and give them love of God by it. When they were paying their obeisances, he would jump on their backs like this. He was frivolous, like a cowherd boy. Greatly, greatly elevated personality. And the brother of Krishnadas Kaviraj was, in a sense, insulting him because the pujari at the time, Gunanava Mishra, was the pujari, and he didn't stand up and make an offering of pranam when Miniketana Ram came into the courtyard of the house of Krishnadas Kaviraj. And then his brother of Krishnadas Kaviraj was very unhappy, knowing that his brother didn't have proper respect for Nityananda, and he chastised him very, very strongly. And for a brother to do like that to another brother for Vaishnavas to behave in that way, and it was a traumatic thing for him to chastise his brother because they were soft-hearted Vaishnavas. And that night he had a dream, and Nityananda comes in the dream. This is all that's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 5, Adi Lila, chapter 5. And Nityananda comes in the dream, and he comes as Lord Balaram, and he's surrounded by cowherd boys, and they're offering prayers and so on, fanning him. And he describes his form as so beautiful, huge, heroic personality, wearing blue silk cloths and a turban. And he directs Krishnadas Kaviraj when Krishnadas Kaviraj is only about 18 years old at this time. He directs him to immediately go to Vrindavan. Then he immediately goes to Vrindavan. Then he meets Raghunath Das, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, all these personalities. He's there with them. So he's writing like this. So it's a very beautiful pastime. When this attitude is combined with compassion, forgiveness automatically appears. Forgiveness is included in bhakti. So this forgiveness comes between humility and compassion. This is what it's saying. So these are wonderful qualities. These humility, compassion, forgiveness. And these are the qualities that bhakti will automatically generate in the heart of one who is even beginning to appreciate the sweetness and speciality of devotion to his object of devotion. What we have to discern now is, what is my object of devotion? I was saying the other day how when you chant so much, it's like putting petrol in the tank, but where are you going to drive? Where are you going to focus your attention of devotion to? And I gave that beautiful verse. Do you remember? Aradeyo Bhagavan Brijesha Tanayas Tad Dhamma Vrindavan. Anyway, I put this verse on our WhatsApp thread. So you're not on it. I'll put you on the WhatsApp thread. And then this verse is very important to appreciate. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, by the way, in the Chaitanya Manusha, has written this. And I haven't seen that book. That's why I couldn't answer you the other day when you asked me. I haven't seen the book. But it's Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writing that incredible verse. Krishna is Satya, real. Now that's just a powerful sentence in itself. Krishna is not this imaginary form. He is real. The personality of Godhead is a personality. He's real. We have to realize that first before we can come out of Kanishta. Krishna is Satya, real. The fact that the jivas are servant of Krishna is also real. That's my eternal identity. Jiva Sarup Hori Krishnera Nityadas. Krishnera Tatasta Shakti Beta Abeta Prakash. This is my eternal position. Real. Krishna is also real, as is the fact that the material world is only a boarding house for the jivas. Hey, Baba, we're just passing through here. This is not our home. Don't try and throw roots down. Don't try and plant a garden here. We're leaving very soon. It's like staying in a hotel or a motel. What's the point of starting a garden in the hotel, planting trees and banana trees and creepers? You're going soon. You're on a journey. You're going out of there. So we're leaving this material world forever, hopefully. So why make a big deal about it and try and dig deep attachments in here? Let it go. Only cultivate our attachment for Krishna, because that we can do here. This we can do. And this is in the eternal channel. So that will be to our eternal welfare. That means that bhakti is also real, because these truths are based on the jiva's relationship with Krishna. Yes, that devotion literally is like a current that comes from the heart. I'll try to describe a simple example. Say a father, he gives his son pocket money regularly. And then that small son, say he's 6 or 7 years old, he's not spending his pocket money on sweets, but he goes and he buys his father a sweater, a nice jumper, exactly what his father would like. He gets all that money, saves it, and goes to the shop, buys a beautiful sweater. Then he gives it to his father. How does his father feel? His heart will melt in affection towards his son. At that time, there's a tangible current of affection going between the two. What to speak of that tangible current that can go between Guru and Shishya? And in that current, Guru will infuse the understanding of what is Shuddha Bhakti. First of all, he will give us the Krishna Seva Vasana, which is the Bhakti Lata Bij, the creeper, which is going to grow in the heart to take shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. But a creeper has to grow on something. What is it growing on? It's growing on the pillar of humility. If we don't have humility, that creeper can't be growing. So that humility has to be there for the creeper, this Krishna Seva Vasana. This means the enthusiasm to serve Krishna. That's what Guru gives us. He gives us that inspiration to serve Krishna, not me. This is my perversion. This is my conditioning, that I'm always serving me. At every step I'm taking, will this make me happy? Will I like this? Do I want this? Shall I go here? Shall I go there? Oh, the weather's nice there, so I should go there. Not considering about the fruits of devotion that can come from those places. If we're considering to go to Radhakund, that's very auspicious. So much devotion can be appreciated in a magnificent place like Radhakund. But we also have Radhakund here, but it's covered. That means that bhakti is also real, because these truths are based on the jiva's relationship with Krishna, which is itself bhakti. That's the relationship with Krishna. That's what's going to fulfill my heart. Yeyatma suprasidati. That will fulfill my heart. Truth, humility, compassion, and forgiveness are 4 special qualities that are included in bhakti. What a beautiful paragraph. These 2 paragraphs are really exceptional. So many of these paragraphs here actually are exceptional, but these are very exceptional. Okay, now we come back to the pastime. Nityananda Das, how should a Vaishnava behave towards followers of other religions? This is important. In Kali Yuga, there are principally two Kali Yuga religions, Christianity and Islam. These two we should know. And there's Confucius also. But predominantly in this Western world anyway where we live, it's Islam and it's Christianity. So we should know something of the precepts of that. Perhaps we were brought up with Christianity, most of us in this English-speaking Western world. So we have to appreciate what is the truth in there and what is to be rejected from that. The instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.26 is Narayana Kala Shanta Bhajanti Hi Anusavaha. Those who are free from the propensity to slander others and who are fully peaceful worship Lord Sri Narayan and his plenary portions. So he's answered with this verse. If someone who is not violent towards others, we see in the history of both of these religions, Islam and Christianity, how much people have died in the name of Christianity historically in the last 2,000 years. How many people have died in the name of Islam? This is not a pure religion where you have to fight with others. You know, in Vedic culture, in the Vedic historical records, they have not invaded another country for 100,000 years. Hindus have never invaded another country because what have they got to invade for? They've got their own property. They're quite satisfied and peaceful. They have their cow. They have their river Ganga. Why do they want to go anywhere else? Krishna walked through this land. Why do they want to invade another country? They have so much wealth and property. What is the value? They're satisfied. So they haven't invaded another country. Yet we see throughout history the Christians and the Muslims. They have not been satisfied with their lot in life, but they want to increase their material acquisitions and they want to propagate their own religion. The Hindus don't. If someone is inquiring about Krishna or Vishnu, then we will tell them very quickly. We won't go and beat someone on the head and tell them if they believe that we're going to kill them. So both of these religions do like that. We had the Crusaders coming through it. All of this, you know, in history. There is no dharma other than the Vaishnava dharma because it's not violent. All other dharmas that are or ever will be propagated in the world are either steps on the staircase of Vaishnava dharma or else distortions of it. Yes, Christianity can definitely be an inspiration to coming to Krishna. I was a Christian. My grandfather was a priest in the Christian ministry. I was brought up that way. If you have those precepts from a childhood and you have respect for Jesus, then it softens the heart towards accepting the precepts of these Vedic scriptures of what is Vaishnava Dharma. But if you're in an institutional type of environment, that's not going to be conducive at all. These dharmas are all steps leading to bhakti, should be respected in proportion to their degree of purity. Yes. How many cows do they kill? This should always be the consideration. One should not hear any malice towards what?
Bear.
Can't hear you.
Should not bear.
Sorry. One should not bear. What did I say?
Here.
Oh, sorry. One should not bear any malice towards dharmas that are distortions of bhakti. And he's just described what is bhakti. But one should focus exclusively on the cultivation of one's own devotional truths. One should not maintain any animosity towards the followers of other religions. I've just explained that. There's no need for animosity. There's no need to be antagonistic towards any other religion. Krishna will deal with them for whatever sinful behavior they're doing towards cows, etc. Krishna will take care of that. It's not our job. When the time is ripe, the followers of various other dharmas will become Vaishnava Vaishnavas easily. Of this there is no doubt. If the heart is sincere, they will become Vaishnavas. If the heart is so corrupted, again and again, they will take birth in the lower species. Nityananda Das, is it our duty to preach Vaishnava Dharma or not? Certainly it is. Our Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given everyone the responsibility of spreading this Dharma, but not in an aggressive way, not threatening to kill someone, but by gently chanting or vigorously chanting the holy name on the street. It's completely different to trying to coerce people. Nacho Gao Bhakti Sange Kare Sankirtan Krishna Nama Upadeshi Tara Sarva Gyan. This is Adi Leela Chaitanya Charitamrita 792. Dance, sing, and perform Sankirtan in the association of bhaktas. You should deliver everyone by instructing them to chant Sri Krishna Nam. Automatically that will go on. But this is for the sincere people, for those non-duplicitous people. But even the holy name will begin to purify those people also. Ataiva ami agna dulan sabakara kare julan taran brahmafal deha yare tare. Therefore I am ordering everyone to distribute the fruits of prem wherever they go and to whomever they meet. We see the example of Nityananda and Haridas. They went and they requested Jagai and Madai, oh, you just please chant Hare Krishna. But they couldn't handle that. They threw the pot, Jagai and Madai. However, must one remember not to give Sri Krishna Nam to unqualified people. Such people should first be given the necessary qualification. Only then can they be given Hari Nam. Furthermore, these statements of Sriman Mahaprabhu do not apply when neglect, apeksha, is appropriate. For instance, when dealing with inimical people, trying to enlighten such people only presents obstacles to one's preaching. If one is objecting, don't bother to preach to them. Because you have to come by your own choice. Because your own choice is in the heart. You have to come by the heart for any success to come. You can't coerce the heart. It has to come direct. When Nityananda Das had heard Haridas Babaji's Mahashai's ambrosial words, he rolled on the ground at his feet in great love. The grove reverberated with the Vaishnavas' loud exclamations of Sri Harinam, and everyone offered Dandavat pranams to Babaji Mahashai. The day's meeting in that secluded grove came to an end, and everyone returned to their respective places. Thus ends the 8th chapter of Jaiva Dharma, entitled Nitya Dharma and Vaishnava Behavior. This was the topic, was Vaishnava behavior, especially these last instructions about preaching. For example, it's very often not favorable to preach amongst your family members. Your family members, they remember you when you were a scruffy little baby, didn't know anything. And especially to mother, you will always be the child. How can you start dominating and telling her what she should believe in and what she should not believe? And the same with the father. If they're not favorable, if they're not inquiring, and how will they come to inquire? By your good behavior. When they see your reformed mentality and your carefulness and your mood of compassion that we've just spoken about, if this is rising, then they will notice that. They will see, oh, he's become a very gentle soul. Or look how they're behaving now. Where is he getting that gentleness from? Then they will ask you about that. And when they inquire, then you can give. But if they don't inquire, don't try to impose. All it will do is make arguments. And what is the point of that? Then it'll just create enmity between you. There'll be no value whatsoever. I know as younger devotees, we're always thinking, yes, we've got to bring them all to the path of Krishna and hellfire and brimstone. And we just hurt our heads. We just bang our heads. It doesn't do any good at all. I wish someone had told me this years and years ago when I was a younger devotee. Of course, I was trying to tell my parents what the real truth was about, because you get excited about it when you're young. When you know, just coming out of your teenage years, 20 years old, you suddenly realize the absolute reality. Naturally, you want to share it with your loved ones, your parents, but they're not ready to accept it. It's a process to accept it. And how can we even accept it without following the process? The process of Harinam. That's what's going to soften the heart. That's going to get the mercy. That's going to incur the mercy. So don't try and preach to your inimical family members. If they're favorable, then of course you spread the whole philosophy out to them. But if they're not favorable, especially in the Western worlds, they've been eating meat all their lives, how are they going to understand? I mean, when you eat meat, there's certain acids in the meat that actually deaden the finer tissues of the brain, that you can't think clearly. You become like dull taking blood, etc. Your brain doesn't operate with the same speed as someone who's a pure vegetarian, for example. So like this, how can you actually the best way is always to give your family members Mahaprasad. If you give them buckets of Mahaprasad every time you go, you don't want to take anything from them if they're meat eaters, but you want to cook for them and offer nice Mahaprasad to purify them. And then they will comment, oh, this is so tasty. You learn how to cook so that you can use this cooking ability in your preaching. It's very important. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was very strong on our secret weapon. Our secret weapon is Mahaprasad. This will transform the consciousness. So we should think like this, always in a favorable, non-aggressive, like I described about the Indian nation. The Hindu nation has not invaded another country for 100,000 years. It hasn't. It doesn't have that aggressive mood. So we should follow like that. So we'll finish a bit early, a minute early today. Any question? Or we'll finish. Jai Vedama ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.